Hey, what is up, everybody? Happy 2022, first episode of the year. I'm Jay. I got Craig joining me. It is Sports Clichés, episode 11, as we go into the final week of the regular season. We got some important games as far as some seeding is concerned. We got some important games as far as some teams even making the playoffs is concerned. A lot to talk about. I think we'll quickly touch on some of the maybe one of the bigger things I think that we have kind of stumbled upon here, because this is a team that's come up quite a bit. We've had a lot of discussions, a lot of back and forth. Their injury situation, has this team kind of been as good as their record has shown? Who have they actually beat? And now we have come upon the situation, Craig, of we have the Tennessee Titans looking at getting the number one seed going into the playoffs here with a completely healthy, fresh Derrick Henry in the backfield again. What do you think about that, my friend?
Instantly makes them the favorites out of the AFC for the Super Bowl. No question. If they can wrap up number one seed, give Derrick Henry an extra week to just heal off whatever's there, relax, gets the Titans back in that form they were in early in the season when we thought they were the best team in the AFC before Derrick Henry got hurt.
Right.
You take that defense, which did have a little bit of a dip in the middle there, which I think was to be expected given how much they had been asked to shoulder after the loss of Derrick Henry. Tannehill coming off of one of his better performances post Derrick Henry in that Dolphins game, right? He didn't necessarily throw the ball exceptionally well, and obviously he was helped a lot by Deontay Foreman going off, but he didn't turn the ball over. He did the things that he had done successfully prior to Henry going down. You get all these factors working for you. On top of that, to get the number one seed means you probably go into this week and do what you expect them to do and beat the Houston Texans. They go into the playoffs with a boatload of confidence. Oh, yeah, and a healthy Derrick Henry, who's probably chomping at the bit to get that ball back. They're the favorites. They're the favorites out of the AFC if that plays out like that, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about a Tennessee team here that I think we had kind of have some questions as far as, all right, their record was pretty good, but who had they been actually playing? Who had they been beating? What those wins even look like? And then they take what I think obviously they had that early loss to Houston, stuns everybody. And then they get mopped by New England, and you're just like, oh no, this team's starting to fall off here. Luckily, do have that bye week, but then not too long after, they take a loss to Pittsburgh. And I now look at it, and especially when you're taking a look at this week and what the situation is looking like for both these teams, that December 23rd game, the Niners and the Titans, how big was that win for Tennessee, and how harsh is that loss for the Niners in the scenario they find themselves in going into this last week? It wouldn't be a question if Niners handled business in a game that they were dominating the first half of, and they'd be good, and now you're looking at a situation where they're playing for their playoff lives essentially, and a Tennessee team, number one seed. I mean, that's going to be huge for this team. They're going to just be that one more week healthier. They apparently, Henry is not listed. He will not be playing in this regular season finale.
As well he shouldn't.
They don't.
As well he shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't need him. You don't need him to beat the Texans, right? Yeah. If Deontay Foreman can give you half of what he gave you last week, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right? You don't even need the 26 for 132 or whatever the heck it was. Get half of that from him against the 26 132. Get half of that from them against the Texans. You're golden. You've won. Right? The Texans aren't going to put up enough points to even come close to threatening you if you get that. Deontay Foreman is a very solid running back in this league. No, he's not Derrick Henry. Nobody is. But he can do you a job, right? And he'll go out there. He'll run probably about as well as he did against Miami. He'll have a good game. They'll win, I imagine, right? Barring miracles happening. Houston has played a little bit better recently, but they're still the Texans, right? They don't need Derrick Henry for this game, right? I'd be interested to see if they needed him, like if this was like a must-win game if he'd be playing. Because from what it sounds like he's been practicing all week. He's
Yeah.
more or less good to go. They're just like, we're not gonna risk him here.
Yeah, if you put him out here for what could be a runaway game, regardless,
Yeah,
he gets dinged up. Whether it's even that same injury, I mean, this is football, baby. Like anything could happen out there. And you sideline him again for the playoffs, like that would be insane. So I can kind of understand. And yeah, I think this, it's something I had mentioned in previous weeks. I do like this little duo of backfield they got in the backup role with Foreman there, with McNichols. Um, a good 1-2 to you're never yeah. Again, I think we've said this multiple times in the past weeks. You're not going to be able to rebuild Derrick Henry in the aggregate, but you can get kind of close. And with the way that they were determined to run that offense, they weren't. They didn't want to put it in Tannehill's hand. I mean, the way they handled Miami in what a kind of what a flat kind of disappointing end for Miami on the season right
yeah.
there. What like we were both hyped on them. We actually I think both
I think
picked
we both
Miami
picked
on
him.
that one.
Yep.
And because this is a do or die, and Miami had felt like I mean obviously with the win streak they had and the rally back that they had had throughout the season, felt like they would at least be there, and they just weren't. That was a bad game. Tua looked bad. That
Who would turn the ball over came back, right? Like
yeah
he had been so consistent at just keeping control of the ball, moving him downfield. You don't need to throw the ball for 40 yards at a time. You
yeah
get your 5, 6 yard chunks. You run the ball. You start to get something going there, right? They had started to get Miles Gaskin out
right
into the game, right?
yeah
And they just lost all of that last week, right? They'd stopped running the ball again. They made Tua throw the ball 38 times. It's just not a strategy for
yeah
success with Tua,
yeah
right? He fumbled the ball, I think, 3 times in that game, 2 or 3 times to
yeah
go with the interception, right? Like you're not gonna win like that. You can't. And
yeah
unfortunately, that ends their season. A pretty disappointing season as a whole, which in the middle looked like they were starting to come back into the team we thought they were. And
yeah
turns out they're just not that. Just a disappointing season for the Dolphins, I think, as a whole. A team that I think a lot of people, myself included, had kind of pegged for that seventh spot. Maybe they won't get
yeah.
in, but they'll battle for it, and it just never came to fruition for them.
I think the one bright spot is that you did see that team at some point this season for a good stretch
Yeah,
of time. Um,
they're still young.
so you don't want to blow that up. I don't
Mm-mm.
think. Basically, it's
Mm-mm.
kind of my thought. Is like you saw it work. You saw the things working well. Flores getting that team under control from what is a disastrous start. That's a situation in which you could see a head coach fired in the middle of the season, and he did well to rally back there for them. So I was happy to see that. And
Kenneth Walker the third, by the way, needs to be on that team's draft board right now. That team needs a running back so bad to help really flush it out. And I like Miles Gaskin, but I don't think he can be the guy running back.
huh?
He'll
Yeah,
do better. I think he'll do better in a two piece. And Kenneth Walker the
sure.
third to me is the most ready NFL running back. To me, if you're looking to the offseason and you're not going to need to waste a first round pick on him. Kenneth Walker you can easily get early second round, which he'll be picking in. Or you can move up to it if you need.
Right.
But you know, that's their biggest point of emphasis for me is getting a good young running back who you can pair with Miles Gaskin, somebody who can give you a little bit of an explosive burst to go beside Miles Gaskin's heady, smart running style. You get a little bit of both in that, right? And that's where you start to see this team, I think, improve there.
Yeah.
But that was the first thing I thought of last week is, man, Kenneth Walker the third needs to be the first name on this team's draft board. It doesn't need to be your first pick, but it's got to be the top name on your draft board. He even though he's a second round talent, to me, there's nobody in the first round in a position that they need that makes them as much better as Kenneth Walker does.
And that's something we'll probably be able to, I would say, pick apart a little bit more, especially as we kind of
Yeah.
we see how some of these teams, because yeah, there are those teams, Miami right there, obviously these teams that are right there. They're either just getting in or just out of the playoffs. It's usually a either a position group specifically that you could really kind of hone in. I think for the Niners defensive back, for I'd say perhaps some of these 8-8 teams, your Saints, your Falcons, even I would imagine O line would probably be a good call, something like that. Quarterback, well, perhaps, but we know that's a little harder to find. I would say this
offensive line help for sure. Another
and
more so if we're talking about the Falcons here, real quick. An impact wide receiver, somebody who can take
yeah, that's true.
Some of the pressure off of Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
right. And Cordell Patterson, but Cordell Patterson is going to have a lot of pressure on him no matter what. If you're going to play him as that do-it-all running back, there's going to be a lot of pressure on that position regardless. But you do need another option for them, especially we don't know what's up with Calvin Ridley. We don't know if he's going to come back or not. And listen, to be honest, I don't. It's so interesting. For me, I don't care. I want him to be healthy and happy, right? We don't know what the situation is there for Calvin. As a Falcons fan, selfishly, I hope that it ends up in a situation where he's back in a football jersey one day because he is an absolute difference maker. But as a football team, you got to look beyond that, right? You got to go, okay, we can't control this. What can we control? And what you can control, get another playmaker in there, somebody who can do something. Because Kyle Pitts is unbelievable, but he can't do it himself.
Right. Yeah, and I think one thing to look at too is just the interesting names you have at the quarterback position, the veterans that are going to be available in free agency there, or even potential pretty low cost deals. Some guys that can move around. I'm taking a look right now at some of the teams that are playing. A guy like Marcus Mariota. Who's been put onto the bench, that sort of thing. I mean, you got to look at a situation like with the Saints or something like that. Like if you had a Mariota back there when you got Jameis going down, you might be sitting a little prettier right now, right? So
another positive situation of that you can talk about is the Eagles, right? Where we've seen Jalen Hurts go down a few times, and Gardner Minshew steps right in because they have a good backup, right? Yeah. I think it's becoming more and more apparent in the NFL how important having a backup who can step in that you can trust is, right?
Yeah.
And I know that sounds silly because you should go, well, you always want that, but I don't think that's always necessary. There's been a lot of teams who I think the backup is just some guy, right? More and more we're seeing now how important it is, like the truly great teams out there, with one, maybe two exceptions, had to throw in their backup at some point this season, right? Yeah. And have needed that backup to play a game or two. And if you don't have that guy back there who you can trust, it's a problem. The Saints have obviously felt that. And on the reverse side of it, the Eagles have felt that in a positive way. They've thrown in Gardner Minshew a couple times. He's played well for them because he's a good quarterback.
And actually, let's jump right into it because we are actually, since we are on Saturday, and this is a interesting scenario for us. We haven't been in this situation yet to where we're actually doing this podcast while there are games going on. We have kickoff in about 6 minutes for the Eagles.
Yep.
In the Dallas heading to Philly to take on the Eagles. Eagles getting 4.5 points. We'll jump right into it because this game's about to come up and we'll get our pick in. We'll talk a little bit about that Chiefs game that happened just earlier too, but we should get this in probably before kickoff happens here. Obviously, this is a situation that I would never have expected for the Eagles. Eagles are going into this game having secured their playoff position already.
Yeah, essentially nothing to play for.
I think they potentially could move into the 6 if New Orleans ends up moving up and taking the spot over the Niners. If the Niners drop off, the Eagles win, New Orleans wins. I believe the Philly would then enter into the 6th spot. That might not be accurate, but that would be the only thing they'd be playing for. They have secured the 7th spot at the very least, secured the playoffs for sure. So a very interesting scenario. The Eagles are going to, I guess, what I've heard a little bit leading up to the game is you'll probably see some starters in there to start this game. This might play more like a preseason game where you might see those starters pulled maybe after a half of football here, depending on the situation. I mean, how much do you want to fight for this? Dallas, a team that's already secured their playoff spot as well, but also fighting for some potential positioning there. They're at the bottom of the NFC leaders. It would take a lot for them to jump up, but there is still some movement.
They actually can jump up, right? Because I don't think they have tiebreaker on the Bucks or the Rams.
Well,
I think
they might be locked in 4
at 4.
Okay. I could have swore they had one.
I was under the impression that there is nothing to play for in this game outside of the really, really far out scenario you talked about where the Niners lose and Saints win, and then the Eagles move up in the 6th. But as far as I knew, that was the only thing to play for here. I don't think the Cowboys can shoot up ahead of the Rams or the Bucks. So I think I think Green Bay's 1. The Rams and Bucks are going to fight it out for 2 and 3. Cowboys are 4.
Oh, and I suppose if the Saints lost, Niners lost, Eagles won, they would also get the 6.
Yeah, they would also move up.
But yeah, so very minor. All that being said, 4.5 points that Philly's getting here for a game in which both teams might be a little uninterested. Home hasn't actually. I've always kind of leaned on. Well, if I don't really have anybody strong that I'm feeling about, I'll usually go with the home team, especially if they're getting points like this. Home hasn't mattered this year at all as far as win-loss. Like maybe a couple extra wins for the home team through the entire season. So it hasn't even been that much of a factor. 4.5 points, and with a Dallas team that's probably not going to be going out there giving everything. Although I do like some of their second-string players still out there. I'll go with Philly with the points right there. I think 4.5 gives it a bit of space. And let me make sure that line hasn't moved. Actually, my mistake. This line is now -6.5 for Dallas. So actually, it's a +6.5 for Philly. So even more reason for me to take Philly there, I feel.
Yeah, I like Philly too. I know why that line is where it's at. It's because of obviously Jalen Hurts not playing. He's got that ankle injury. Gardner Minshew's in. Eagles are probably going to rest a bunch of guys. Cowboys might not, even though I don't know how much this game matters for them. I was under the impression that they couldn't move up. They maybe can if every result goes their way. But honestly, I don't think it matters. I don't trust this Cowboys team at all.
That offense has been pretty suspect to actually put up points, right?
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier. Gardner Minshew has played just fine when he's had to come in and play for the Eagles, and we know he can be a good quarterback in the NFL. We've seen it with the Jaguars. He's probably not at the caliber of good starter, but he's definitely at the caliber of elite backup, right? We're probably talking top 3 or 4 backups in the NFL with Gardner Minshew. So you're just fine sending that dude in to play a game against the Cowboys defense that is good, but has given up points at times. And against the Cowboys offense that is talent-wise very good, but has been inconsistent at best. I like the Eagles in this situation. Playing at home, I know we just said it doesn't mean much per se, but it's just one of those games where I just don't trust the Cowboys to win this one at all.
Yeah. Too many question marks in terms of the effort that's going to be put out there as well. And yeah, with that big of a spread, I don't see much of an issue with taking Philly there. That's actually quite a big spread given the scenario. But yeah, Jalen, him getting rested, that'll be nice. Minshew will get some reps. I know he wanted those starters reps. I think that was a couple games ago. He asked Sirianni what he could do to get some more snaps, and it's like, no, Jalen's our quarterback too bad.
mean, it's interesting to me. I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts the way that he seems to be. I mean, I don't hate Jalen Hurts. He does a lot of things well. I just don't know if he's that much of an upgrade on Gardner Minshew, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That's not me saying Sirianni's making the wrong choice playing Hurts. He's definitely not, because we know what Minshew's ceiling is, right? Like I said, he is at best probably a good NFL starter. You would never put him in the top 10, right? But I mean, he'd certain there's I can name at least 5 or 6 NFL teams this year that starting quarterbacks that are worse than Gardner Minshew, right? Probably
Oh yeah.
pretty easily when I go back through it and think about it. But with Jalen Hurts, we don't necessarily know that ceiling could be higher, right? That ceiling could be top 10, top 15 quarterback in the NFL, right?
Right.
Top half quarterback. So he made the right choice. I'm not sold on Hurts yet. We'll see. I could be wrong about it, but
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think it's one of those things. It's kind of a position thing. I have not liked it before when you have coaches that have kind of waffled. Like they will stick behind a guy, and then when it starts getting a little too rocky, and sometimes it's realistic. Like if a quarterback can't play, he can't play. But um, you kind of you stand behind a guy, and then it starts getting a little tough. Maybe your job starts getting questioned as the head coach, and there's this waffling back and forth. Even like I've those teams that you'll we've seen it a couple times with definitely with Matt Rule and the Panthers and that shit show of a situation. It just quarterbacks getting flipped in and out, and it just like, man, you just gotta kind of ride or die with it because you're not allowing your guys to get you can't get any momentum going. The you know things like your cadences and just the whole operation is just halted when you're just doing these shift in shifts out because something goes bad, and so I guess I gotta appreciate that from Sirianni in this situation. It's that he's kind of he's backed Jalen pretty much from the beginning and hasn't backed out from it, and that looked like a pretty bad choice at one point this season. That was looking real bad early. Yeah, now it's the playoff team. Oddly enough, you take a look at it and it's like for what you think this team was going into the season, I would have never. Let's see. All right. Ooh, not
what a
great.
thought by Gardner. What a
Let's
thought
see
by
it.
Gardner.
Oh man. So there's a potential. I think right now, I'm seeing the third down play. So I might be a play behind you here. Looks
Oh,
like.
you'll see it then. You'll see it.
All right. But but yeah, I appreciate that he stood behind him, and given the scenario, what this team was kind of looking like, projected to be, pretty goddamn good job for the first year coach there. So some would argue. I saw some Twitter posts, something like that. They would have been better off with Peterson. Oh my God, that throw! But but I don't think so. I think this is definitely better than what you could expect for this team, and they got to be happy going into the playoffs, even with how bad that offense has looked at times. It has looked bad.
It has, but I think they've done a good job of readjusting to what they need to do, right? And I think that that is the mark of a particularly good coach. We talked about it early in the season. Why doesn't this team run the ball more?
Right.
They need to run the ball, and they tried to establish an identity as a pass first kind of West Coast offense. Realized that wasn't working and adjusted. Came back, become one of the one of, if not the best rushing team in the NFL. At one point they were number one in rushing yards. I haven't checked recently. I don't know if they still are, but they're definitely up there. And they pivoted, right? And it's not always easy to pivot, right? We've seen a lot of coaches out there who get stuck to their guns, right? And they're going to ride or die by this offense they want to run. I think Sirianni deserves a lot of credit for realizing it's not working and making the change he needed to make.
I suppose, yeah, something to be said about that too, being able to make adjustment on that. Um, let's move right into it, into another team that I think has really gone beyond expectations, given where they were last year. And as we commented on last week, a one of our most pleasant surprises as a player. You got the Joe Burrow led Cincinnati Bengals going into Cleveland to face the Browns. Browns right now, take a look at this spread. Browns getting -5 here at home. Cincinnati sitting at 10-6, having won the division. They are already set in the playoffs, for the playoffs. The Browns being bounced out. This Browns team's looked every bit of inconsistent and just off. I know for last week's picks there, we both felt like they would do a little bit better than they did. They got dropped there by Big Ben's home finale there against Pittsburgh. Just for how the teams played, and regardless of if they're playing their starters or not, I still really like the Cincinnati team a bit more, and especially they're getting points here, the -5. I'll take Cincinnati on my pick.
Yeah. The Browns have been the most disappointing team in the NFL this year, I think. We'll maybe talk about the Chargers, who are probably fighting them for that spot, but I, honest to God, thought the Browns were going to win this division this year. And I didn't... Honestly, if you had told me Lamar Jackson was going to get hurt this year and Baltimore was going to go through the injury struggles they were having, I'd say it's not even close. Right? Like, Pittsburgh's exactly what I thought they'd be. Inconsistent at best, garbage at worst. Right? Like, they're just not that good of a team. The Bengals have obviously surprised the hell out of everybody. But at 10-6, the Browns should absolutely be going into this game fighting for a division title. And instead, they're going into this game with absolutely nothing to play for. That's a team that needs to ask some serious questions around the team. And I know you had a franchise-altering season last year, potentially, right? You finally make the playoffs. You get past the Steelers hurdle in the wild card round. You nearly get past the Chiefs. That's all well and good. This is a what have you done for me lately league.
Right.
And this year, you have done nothing, right? They have one consistent offensive weapon, and his name is Nick Chubb. And God, get that man some help, because if Nick Chubb doesn't start getting more recognition and more respect put on his name for what he does out there, it is a shame. Because Nick Chubb needs to be in that conversation with Taylor and Henry. He is that good, right? That he is that level of running back. The problem is he plays for the Browns, right? Yeah. And what every team does is they blitz literally 8 to 9 guys and go, throw the ball, we dare you. Well, and they can't.
It was kind of the interesting thing. I mean, that last game right there, Chubb saw pretty limited snaps, it seemed like, throughout, and I guess some of the thought you could have is that they are in what is essentially going to be a meaningless game for them. They're not making the playoffs. To more or less rest him and not have him get hit with an injury.
Only have so many touches, right? That's the thought process in the NFL.
Precisely.
You only have so many touches for a running back. Why use some on Chubb now? And I don't disagree with that, to be honest with you.
But then you're running Baker with fucking half of, he has half an arm basically that he's playing with on his non-throwing arm. That thing's completely busted up. because
You want to know
they
why
don't
the
care
secret to
about
that
it.
is?
Well,
They
yeah,
don't care about Baker Mayfield.
but that's,
He's
I mean,
gone next year.
man, I don't know. There, I understand like it's money to be made, and these guys are all could be seen as just assets to, putting a product out on the field, that sort of thing, and so you could just you kind of look at them as nameless, faceless, just units of production, but there's something to be said. It's not like the guy hasn't been your franchise quarterback, has shown your team some good times for once in such a long time. I don't want to say you owe it to a guy, but I don't know, maybe you show him a little bit more love. And if you do plan on getting rid of him, don't get him the potential to have any further harm happen to him when he has to go out into free agency and go to another team. Don't screw him for the future because you just don't. You're not going to have him next year. Why? Some kind of loyalty kind of has to go back and forth, I feel, in that situation, given where that team had been at, what that team became with him under a quarterback. And yeah, as we've said, he doesn't fly off the page to you as being an exceptional quarterback, but guided the ship enough for that team to be able to fucking make the playoffs and do something for once.
Listen, if Baker Mayfield was your backup, he could be that Gardner Minshew level backup, right?
Sure.
We were talking about
Right.
the like very elite level backup, right? I think he's a fine enough starter in the NFL, but I don't think you're unless you're in a situation. Well, I mean, okay, now hold on. I was gonna say unless you're in a situation like in Tennessee where you have that kind of a running back. They are in that situation. To be fair, they did make a divisional round last year, so Baker's such an anomaly of a quarterback, isn't he? Because on one hand, he's done a lot of good things in the NFL,
Yeah.
right? Like, but on the other hand, he just doesn't show as a good quarterback, right? Like he doesn't. You watch him and you go, that guy's just not it, is he?
He honestly, and it's funny because you're talking about same team here. I believe. Wait, no, is Mullins there now? I can't.
Yeah, Nick Mullins is there now.
Yeah, he just reminds me because I went through some Nick Mullins years. He just reminds me of kind of a slightly better version of Nick Mullins, where he shows you some things that you look kind of good and you could actually like step up and have some nice throws in the pocket. But then like the footsteps and or whatever start happening and some bad throws start coming out, some hesitation. It's just a lot of unease. And you don't want that as your quarterback, right?
I think of a different Nick when I think of him, and it's Nick Foles, right? Put in the right situation, in the right game, that guy can shine. But if you need him to play a full season, you're probably not doing well, right? Baker, when put in a situation where his job is hand the ball off to your elite running back, let him do the work, drop some play actions and drop some deep balls, right? We're going to throw the ball 20 times. Other than that, it's going to be Nick Chubb doing the work and Kareem Hunt doing the work, right? Your job is to just make sure that you do enough with your arm to keep that defense honest. I think he's fine in that role. I think he actually excelled in that role for parts of last season, right? Maybe Nick Foles is an unfair comparison. Maybe Ryan Tannehill's a better comparison there, right? If you ask him to do anything more than that, you're probably in trouble, right? But in that situation, I think he can work. I look at Baker, and again, something we'll probably talk a little bit more about as the offseason comes about. I think the New Orleans Saints are just such a good fit for him. Be that guy who's behind Jameis, but if you come into the game, your job is use Kamara. Get Kamara into the game as much as you can, and then just make sure you don't do anything that will cost us beyond that. I think that's the kind of role that Baker fits really well in. And he can go to New Orleans. He doesn't have to be the starter. Listen, Jameis Winston coming out of Tampa Bay, everybody thought he was dead. Right? You look at what Jameis Winston did at the start of the season with a year behind Drew Brees, a year with Sean Payton kind of helping him. Sean Payton's shown through his career he knows how to work with a quarterback, man. He knows how to get the most out of whatever skills you got. And Baker's got something. You cannot make the playoffs in the NFL without having at least some kind of a skill to make an NFL offense work. He's done it with Jameis. Let's not forget, Drew Brees, when he went to the New Orleans Saints, wasn't the all-time greatest quarterback. He was a guy who couldn't beat Phillip Rivers in San Diego.
Yeah.
Right? Sean Payton's been known to do some things with some quarterbacks that are quite impressive. I think New Orleans is a great fit for Baker Mayfield. It gives him a chance to do a full reset where he doesn't have to go in and be the guy right away, right? Where he can get a coach who knows how to work with a quarterback and maybe rebuild what was there before.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I suppose that would be their salary cap in situation is quite a mishmash, and I know obviously they have like these incentive deals and that sort of thing, so I'm sure they can make it work cap wise. But
how much is Baker going to cost someone this year? Really, do you think anybody's breaking the bank for Baker Mayfield? I think you're probably getting him at decent backup money.
Yeah, but a decent backup money is a starter for some positions on some teams, right? So
yeah. But I mean, it's a position they need to address.
Right.
Right. It is absolutely a position they need to address, and you can address that one of two ways. You go into the draft somebody who's a big unknown, big question mark, to get a position where you're not having to pay decent backup quarterback money in the draft. Probably looking third, fourth round, right? And then at that point, do you have somebody who is better than Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian? Maybe.
Yeah.
With Baker, you pay decent backup money. Yeah, you'll probably have to find some way to make it work, but I'm sure they can. Listen, teams have done more with less.
Right.
You know what you're getting. You know damn well what you're getting out of Baker Mayfield. And I think that's a big thing for the Saints. I don't love rookie backups. There are obviously exceptions to this, right? If your rookie backup is somebody that you've brought in to learn from a veteran starter who is going to pass the torch on one day. Right. Aaron Rodgers to Brett Favre, for example, or what I hope the Falcons do next year, right? Where Matt Ryan's your starter, you have a rookie backup who's there to essentially learn from Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't think you're bringing in a rookie to learn from Jameis Winston, per se, right? I don't think that's the kind of guy that you want to back up sitting behind to study. Because let's face it, Jameis himself isn't great at not making mistakes, right? Now, unless your argument there is you want a rookie in to learn from Sean Payton, in which case, fair enough. But I think with Baker, you get everything you want out of a backup quarterback with maybe some potential for more.
Yeah,
I think the fit's just there.
I think it's actually that kind of goes into an interesting question. In the idea of in those relationships where you have perhaps a veteran starter or with a rookie or young guy brought in as the backup. Maybe those two are a little closer, that sort of thing. There's kind of the idea that the rookie will learn from under them, like a mentor-mentoree situation. And from other, scenarios where I've heard about this, that could very much not be the case.
It depends on the personality of your quarterback who is the mentor.
Yeah.
I know the situation you're thinking of right away is Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. Right?
Yeah, a bit, but it's just kind of the general feeling. These are guys, perhaps a veteran, even in the situation where you have the young guy and they're coming in as the backup. These veterans, they see it and they're like, "No, I'm going in and I'm competing to start for this team because either A, that's how they see themselves, or just the mentality like I'm here to play quarterback. I'm not here to be a teacher. We have coaches for that." Do quarterbacks have the ability to lend some advice and that sort of thing? Absolutely. But I think some of the idea of a veteran quarterback truly taking a rookie under their wing in a given scenario, I don't think you could always write that off as being the case, right? I think there's a lot of situations with that veteran quarterback. They'll help him if they're asked questions, but they're not like leading him through. This is my routine. This is exactly what I do. This is how I become successful because they're trying to be the successful ones. They're trying to be the one that are starting. They still are fighting for a career potentially. They don't want to be put into the shadows for the young guy. There's something to prove there.
So I would argue that mentorship in sports doesn't work like that at all. Right, with the take a guy under their wing and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I think the way mentorship in sports works is you draft that rookie and he watches what the veteran does.
Sure.
Because
yeah.
ideally, if you are a successful quarterback in the NFL and you are still working to be a successful quarterback in the NFL, you have a certain routine, right? A way of things that works, right? Especially at the quarterback position where respect from your receivers and your tight end and being able to tell guys, hey, you fucked this up. I need you to stop fucking it up.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to relay that information to people and have them look at you and go, you are right, I am sorry, rather than getting pissed off about it. Those are important things. Right? And those are things that as a rookie you might screw up, that if you had a veteran in front of you and you got to see how they handled those situations, you will not screw them up. Right? You will do it the way that you have seen works. Right? And I know it sounds ridiculous because in our heads we go, well, just say it nice to them. Just go, next time maybe watch out for that block. But it doesn't work like that, right? You've got to know who you're talking to. You've got to have an understanding of the personalities around you. Some people respond better to you going up to them going, hey, idiot, don't screw that up next time. Some guys respond better to having to sit down and go, hey, man, good work out there. You're fighting hard. Be careful of that guy coming around the right, and in that way you got to do the compliment sandwich with those guys, right? Everybody's a little bit different, right? And as a quarterback, you got to know how to handle every personality around you. And I think that, as much as anything else, is something that as a rookie you're gonna screw up. You might screw up less if you sat behind a veteran. And I think that, to me, more is how mentorship in sports works than it does really, like, come here, buddy. I know you're going to take my job, but let me show you how to take my job properly.
But I think that is how some people will view that when you bring in a veteran or something like that. You're like, oh, yeah, this guy that's played for X amount of years could really teach the young guys some things I think when you hear like the teach and learning from somebody, the watching film and breaking it down with them, and that's not to say that there haven't been relationships like that in the NFL.
Oh,
there are guys that will, there's one of the sweetest jobs in the NFL is the role of the backup quarterback. Everybody loves you, sort of thing, because
you're the guy everybody wants to play.
You're not responsible for shit that's happening on the field. If it's going bad, they're looking for you to do it. And then otherwise, you're the next in line. You're the potential spark. If you need it, that sort of thing. So, I think that backup veteran role, I think it's important, especially we do seem to have, and this will always be the case, and we have some old, we got some vets in playing quarterback nowadays still, of course, but we got a lot of young guys, a lot of young guys right now that are starting quarterbacks for teams, and like you saying, like I like Gardner Minshew, you'd rather see him in there than Davis Mills, right? So,
like I said,
your point stands. Like there's places to go. There's places to go for him. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
100%. But it's going to be an interesting market for quarterback this year, right? Because I think there's a lot of teams that want a quarterback, and I think there's also probably going to be a fair few quarterbacks available.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It depends on what Baker does. Will he do what's best for Baker as a future player, or will he do what's best for Baker right now? And I can't blame him either way, right? If somebody's willing to pay him an exorbitant amount of money to continue to be the guy that he is, and he ends up being the next Houston guy, Sage Rosenfels. He ends up being the next
No.
Sage Rosenfels, right? Then hey, he got paid boatloads of money,
Yeah.
right? But I do think there is an argument to be made for Baker to say go to New Orleans, take a year, learn from Sean Payton, develop like you really should have been developing in Cleveland, right? And then you can maybe step up to be the guy that Cleveland thought you were going to be. I don't know what the future holds for him. We've spent way too much time talking about this.
Yeah. Well,
Bengals, by the way. Bengals.
Bengals. All right. So yeah, both got Bengals with the given the +5 advantage on the road there. And yeah, let's keep it moving down the list. There are some games that we just don't even know who's really going to be playing, what kind of effort level we're going to be seeing out of some of these teams. But we got the next one down the list here. We got the Green Bay Packers going into Detroit to face the Lions. Green Bay actually only getting -3 here coming in on the road. Obviously, there is a lot of starter situation.
Yeah.
The Lion pride perhaps coming up in this game for these guys on the road. You gotta imagine a Jordan Love led Green Bay Packers team for the most part here.
And we saw what that looked like the first time they tried that.
Right.
Jordan Love's not ready, right? I'm not 100% sure Jordan Love will ever be ready. I was one of the staunch people who were out there saying that was one of the dumbest draft picks I've ever seen.
Right.
I'm still on that boat. I don't know. Maybe he's the next Aaron Rodgers, but the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love is Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be the first overall pick and fell to 20-something. Jordan Love was supposed to go in the second round, and Green Bay sold the farm to take him in the first.
Yeah.
He looked awful in that game against Kansas City, and Kansas City gave him every chance to win that game.
Right.
He's not going to get that from Detroit. Listen, if you say whatever you want about the Detroit Lions team, we've said it all. They're not very talented. There's a lot of holes in that team. The one thing they will not do is give you opportunities. You will have to earn whatever you get from them, right? If you're going to win that game, you're going to earn that win. That has been true more often than not with the Lions this year. It's not been true every game, but that's literally the case for every team. I think every team over the course of this year has had a loss that they'll look at and go, we really didn't come out there and play very hard for that one, did we? I think the Lions, as much as any team in the league, can probably look back on this season and go, no matter what, we played hard for as many games as we could have gone out there and played 100% for. They're not going to give you anything. And I don't think Jordan Love's the kind of guy who's going to go in there and really force things to happen. Right? He's not going to be the guy who makes things happen. Because of that, and because of how much this Lions team wants these wins, I think they're going to pull out one more.
There's a lot that I like about what you said there, and a lot that I feel like could apply. This Lions team, I mean, they just gave up 51 points to Seattle, who are not good in any stretch. I don't care if you have Russell Wilson back there. That is not a good team, and they got the doors blown off them by that. I think this has all the potential to be one of those classic, very close Detroit Lions games, whether they win, lose, whatever. And I don't have much belief in Jordan Love. So all these things, I'm agreeing with you. That being said, I don't have any reason to believe that Detroit's going to look. I think we've seen what they absolutely, getting a win like they did against Arizona, how well they performed, and they hit all their marks. And that team actually looks at like they're flying around. They're playing with a lot of passion. I think there's a reason why we've only seen maybe one of those games like that from them this year. It's just you got to hit all these marks for that to happen for them. And I just don't see them playing to any kind of consistency like that. So I'm going to take Green Bay in this game, given that it's only a 3-point spread. I see Green Bay win this by a bit more than that.
I will say this will be probably the first game this year where the Lions are going to be playing a team that's got about as much talent as they do on the field. Because Green Bay is going to rest all their guys, right? Green Bay is not going to play anybody to get them hurt. They've already clinched number one. There's literally nothing to play for them here, right? They lose this game, they are number one.
Yeah.
They win this game, they are number one. Nothing changes. They're going into a bye. There's no reason to play Rodgers. There's no reason to play Jones. There's no reason to play anybody like that. They're all
Jones
gonna
is questionable too. Yeah, so I can't imagine Jones going to play.
Ain't nobody who if somebody bruised their knee at practice, they're not playing. Right? So there's no way in hell the Packers are playing any of their talent.
The thing is, you're talking about a fairly beat up Detroit Lions team as well, one that hasn't been playing with their starters for a bit. Yeah. They've just been straight out injured, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think enough of LaFleur and the depth that this team has to be able to put out just enough to beat this Detroit team by more than a field goal. That's really all I'm leaning toward. It's not a strong conviction by any means. I had to pick a team here, though, and in a game, it's kind of the interesting question, though, when you have a team that isn't necessarily playing for anything, as far as the regular season going in the playoffs is concerned, position-wise, you already set all that stuff. You will have the next week off. And there has, for the thought, it's something that you have to take into account. If you don't give some guys reps going into the playoffs, one guy actually heard, and this was I think on the Pat McAfee show. I think they brought this up. A guy like David Bakhtiari, lineman for the Packers, has been injured all season and looks to be actually coming back right now. The Derrick Henry scenario, where you don't want to bring him, even though he's just coming back, he's good to go, he's been practicing and that sort of thing. You could do the rest because you don't want to get him injured. And there's some smart, thinking to be put into that. But if you haven't been getting live reps, and you're already going to have the extra week off, that sort of thing, do you want to get some live reps in a not, costing you everything? There's nothing on the line necessarily as far as, win or lose in that game. But you still get actual reps against, competition. And the only next guy that you're going to be seeing, you think about the Packers, is they're going to be seeing their divisional round opponent. You're seeing a playoff team, and you're talking about some of the pass rushers that are in the division with you. You're going to be facing off potentially against a Nick Bosa or plenty. There's a long list of guys as far as in the NFC of pass rushers you'd be facing off against as a tackle. And do you want to have some reps, and be fresh in regards to having faced competition?
David Bakhtiari is 30 years old in his 7th NFL season now.
Right.
I don't think you need to worry about his match sharpness per se. I think this is a guy at this point that mentally is going to be ready to play. I don't think there's going to be an issue with that with a guy like Bakhtiari. With Bakhtiari, it's more physical.
Right.
And to me, I think if he's practicing hard, if he's practicing strong, you do not risk him in this game. Because the only thing you can get out of game time for me in a game like this is that mental. Is getting that mental sharpness. I don't think you need to worry about that with a guy like Bakhtiari.
Yeah, no, I don't think you have to worry about a mental sharpness with a guy like him either. I actually am thinking from the physical. Just to get the pace under your legs, that sort of thing. Just to feel some reps. And it's not something he'd be like, I wouldn't think he'd be playing any kind of extended time by any means. A couple drives. Again, you're absolutely right. And this is purely opinion. This is not something I totally believe in. You got to do this, that sort of thing. But it is the option that's kind of thrown out there. You get that guy some live reps in a game.
And full of snaps kind of thing.
Yeah. And all right, you're in, you're out. Hey, good job, David.
situational reps, right? We're third and long. We need like a good long pass block here. Let's get David out there, get him some reps, get him a couple drives early, and then just situational reps when we feel like there's situations that are important.
And that's the thing.
Okay.
It could be important in a game-wise sort of play, but it's not important for your team at all.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
You're risking nothing as far as your team, where they lie and what you have to do going forward. You just literally get actual snaps under your legs, basically.
And you might even literally go up to that guy before the game and go, "Hey, we're going. You're going out there to go 100%. But the second you feel anything, come on out."
Precisely.
I don't care if it's a cramp. You're sitting down, right? Like risk nothing. Go out there, play hard. But let's not, like, literally, if you sneeze on that field, get off.
Yeah, mosquito bite, you get off.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So, in my head when you were talking about that, my first thing was, who do you think is better, the Detroit Lions or the Green Bay Packers scout team? It's sad that this is an honest question we need to ask, but... He's not playing the strongest of opponent here, right? Let's be honest. We've talked about it numerous times this year. The biggest thing that there's so many bad teams out there that are hampered by things that they just shouldn't be hampered by, right? The Jacksonville Jaguars and coaching.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans and past coaches are still haunting them to this day, right? With Detroit, it's this fascinating thing of they're the team more than anybody else that's not hampered by coaching or by effort levels. They're hampered by literally not having talent, right? They're not good enough.
Yeah. Well, they didn't help themselves either. They got rid of some of their talent leading up to it. And you're like, what the hell? You're getting rid of the only wide receiver I could ever have named on your team for the last 3 years, right?
It shouts out to Amon-Ra St. Brown, though, who's having a pretty decent year.
Right. And you get some
Yeah.
That's then a guy that you're hoping that you are able to give him some help.
I think this year has been good for the Lions in a lot of ways. Like, obviously, you don't want to lose like that, but not even so much the draft pick they're going to get, but they've been able to find a couple of pieces that I think they're probably feeling pretty good about going forward, right? We've mentioned DeAndre Swift. He's been phenomenal at points this year. Had the injury at the end of the season that really hurt him, but I'm sure they're feeling good about that. Amon-Ra St. Brown has really stepped up and played good receiving situations for them, right? God, you throw a quarterback into there and it looks even better. Sorry, Jared Goff, it ain't you. The defense has had a couple of players actually step up and not be too bad, right? Somehow the Lions are both worse and better than I thought they were going to be. And it's shocking to me. They exist in this perpetual state of being... I had the Lions at right about 3 wins. I said it at the start of the year. So they're right about where I thought they'd be wins-wise. Some games they come out and it's like, oh yeah, this team is just awful. And other games they come out and you're like, wait a second, there's a little bit of simmer to this going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the mark of a team that just doesn't have enough talent, but fights harder than... Like, they play above their talent level. More so than any other team. They play above their talent level. This is a 3-win team. Okay, one of their wins was a tie. I didn't have them with a tie. So they're going to lose about the same number of games that I thought they were going to lose. If they lose today. If they win, they're actually a game above what I thought. So, well done. But... they compete so much harder than their record says. This could... Listen, couple of flip plays the other way, a couple missed field goals go their way. This is a 5-win team. Right? This is a 5-6-win team. Right?
Yeah.
What was it? Last second field goal beat them in Baltimore. The first Minnesota game could have gone either way, right? Like...
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I guess that's why, you don't feel... You feel like they are worse off, but better off in a way. Like
they're this just constant state of being better and worse than I thought they were going to be.
I think the timing on when because it was a streak there of just losses, and you could kind of keep pointing toward, they were close, they were really battling there. but that starts to get pretty goddamn draining. I mean, we had Dan. I mean, he was coach was crying after week 5 or something like that. I can't remember what fucking loss that was, but it's like they gave up
I
the
think it was
long
the Baltimore loss. I think it was the Baltimore loss.
long field goal to end the game.
No, it was
That
the Minnesota loss. It was the
Vikings.
Minnesota
That's what I
loss.
thought because that was the bomb.
Yeah.
Just you lose to a just giant field goal right at the last seconds, and
55
it's
yarder
that
from Grant Joseph.
and it's like you love the passion, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you're gonna be facing so many more losses than this. If this is beating you up right now, like it's not gonna get any better, and it wasn't looking like it was getting any better, and so it's like, oh shit, is this team not gonna do a damn thing this year as far as getting any wins? And they finally, they got a tie. They're able to get a win. They're able to get a very impressive win against the Cardinals. So you feel better about that team now as their season wraps up, even only getting 2 wins and a tie potentially on it. They just kind of won at the right time, basically.
To put it this way, I had them as the worst team in the NFL this year. There's a good chance they will not end up being the worst team in the NFL this year. So, hey.
Yeah.
I'll perform my expectations.
There you go. Hell, a team that I don't know if you could argue them for worst team right now, but definitely a team that has looked absolutely flat. We'll go into the next game here because, again, we spent way too much time on Detroit yet again. What are you going to do?
They're a fun team, regardless.
We'll keep it in the NFC North, though, as we got the 6-10 Chicago Bears going into Minnesota to face the Vikings at 7-9. Your second and third place team in the NFC North. Minnesota getting -4 here at home. Both teams obviously out of any playoff consideration. Chicago's winner of their last 2. Vikings losers of the last 2. These teams played just the week before that, where Minnesota went into Chicago and beat them 17-9. This one's kind of interesting because obviously Chicago, with their recent play, makes you feel a little bit better about them. You just never know what kind of effort you're going to get out of teams that are completely out of it right now. These are division rivals, though. This is how kind of the NFL wanted to set this up. So it's, potentially going to mean some of these guys getting this win here. If Chicago was to take this win, you put them on 2 similar records. They'd obviously split the season series there. Have to take a look at what the conference record would be. Who would actually place a little bit better. So something interesting there, I suppose, as far as draft pick consideration. I don't know. I don't love either of these teams, obviously. You talk about 2 teams that have lost more than they won. Minnesota's looked really flat lately. But this Chicago team has just had a flat season in general. -4. I think Minnesota will do just enough at home. I think they'll bounce back from looking pretty goddamn bad against Green Bay here. And somehow Zimmer is going to get a win to make this team almost 500 and somehow keep his job for another year. That's my... You think it's the Nagy? No.
Similar to you.
No, not
Bears
Nagy.
will win the
No,
game.
don't do that to him.
And the Bears, despite supposedly looking out there for another quarterback, will go, you know what? We did just win 3 games in a row to end the year. Looks like Matt's kind of got this team rolling. Let's give him a little bit more time. Maybe next year's the year where he pulls it through for us.
No. That's just mean.
I do think the Bears will win this. I don't think the Bears will keep Matt Nagy, but I do think the Bears will win this game. Their defense is the only decent unit that's going to be on the field in this game, right? Bears offense stinks. Vikings offense stinks. Vikings defense is at best okay, right? The Bears defense is actually pretty good. So it's going to be the only unit out there that I fully trust 100%.
Fair enough.
They'll win.
Yeah, I was a little bit back and forth, and given the the lightest play. You got to feel kind of decent about how Chicago's been doing. I think this will be a mostly flat offensive game. This is kind of what we're accustomed to. I think you get just enough offense behind, combination of, your Jefferson. I think we still have Adam Thielen out? I can't imagine he's playing right now, or is he? Is he back? Thielen out. Yeah, Thielen's been IR with the ankle, so yeah, there's no chance of that. Yeah, that's
you would never play Adam Thielen in this situation. There's just no reason to.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know that Matt Nagy's won 3 games in a row for us. Maybe we leave him around for another year, and that'll be the year he gets it figured out.
Brutal.
This guy, I'm gonna do one last Matt Nagy rant before he gets fired. This guy was the offensive guru, the quarterback genius. He made Alex Smith into a downfield passer. He's going to come in and revamp our offense, and it's going to change everything. This guy cannot call an offensive game to save his life.
Yeah.
I don't know. Andy Reid must have been calling the plays for him in Kansas City. That's the only excuse I have, because there is no way this guy's an offensive coordinator. None. I would never hire him as an offensive coordinator. These Bears offenses are horrendous. And listen, blame Trubinsky however much you want. He was bad. Justin Fields was the best quarterback prospect coming out of this draft, not named Trevor Lawrence. How can you not figure out how to use them? The best game Justin Fields played this year, Matt Nagy was out.
Yes. True. You sure you want to stick with Chicago on this pick?
Yes. Listen. I'll put this out there now. I have been very good this year at picking games based on how I feel games will go.
Right.
Even my Falcons, I have put my loyalty to them to the side for the most part, and looked at the game and said, this is how the game will probably go, and picked that way. This week, and this week alone, I am picking to throw the chaos out there into the universe. I am speaking the chaos into existence. Okay? I want this last week to create as much havoc as humanly possible. And the havoc that can be created in this game is the Bears win. Because you know that front office is going to go, well, we've won 3 games in a row. Should we really fire Matt now? It looks like he's really got this team rolling now. He's got things figured out.
That's mean.
And then the Bears have to go through another year of Matt Nagy.
But on the flip side, like I said, you look at the same thing with Zimmer and this Vikings team.
True.
I think
the Vikings are going to be more willing to fire Matt Zimmer. I think Zimmer's done regardless. There's just something in my head that says, Matt Nagy's cockroach-like life as the Bears head coach is just going to go around there.
One thing I gotta say, I have loved. I don't know if you've noticed in the last few weeks or so. I know he was mic'd up for one of those games. Matt Nagy on the sideline, complete heel turn. He's fucking fired up. He's cussing fools out. Total heel turn. He just like,
great.
Fuck you all then. We'll win the games anyways. And now, potentially a winnable game on the road here. Closing out with 3 in a row. I mean, it is the perfect chaos play. And if what you're looking for is chaos, that's quite the play there.
You're never getting rid of me. I'll be here forever.
Potentially there.
I hope you enjoy 7 and 10 because we'll be here for the next 10 years.
And we'll go from chaos with the coach to chaos with an organization in general as we take a look at a team that could be actually called the Generals. Who knows going forward here? The Washington football team emails Snyder's Admirals. I don't know. I've seen a bunch of other things. There's a list that came out recently.
Could have gone with the Washington Sentinels.
Sentinels.
It was right there.
Yeah.
Branding was all there.
There was a good one The Armada, I heard. That's like, that's all right. They're going into New York, face the Giants. Washington 6-10, Giants 4-12. New York getting +7 here at home. Both these teams obviously clearly out of the playoff picture. Washington was hanging around right there for a bit. They have come out pretty flat in their last couple games here, having dropped their last 4 actually. New York obviously on a much longer losing streak and worse looking season than that. Quarterback situation, obviously, the Giants are trying to find out who's going to just survive this game between Glennon and Fromm. It seems like Taylor Heineke, I don't know, maybe he shows a little something of something in this last game, but it hasn't been a good finish to his season by any means. 7 points. I was still a little surprised by this spread, given that I don't know, people. I actually thought it would be a little bit even more in Washington's favor, to be honest. Just given that they had looked like a potential playoff outlier team for a bit now, and only kind of ran that course out in the last couple games, I would say. Giants, though, have just lost 29-3 against that Matt Nagy-led Chicago Bears team we were just talking about. So,
Way to go, Chicago. Way to fight the good fight.
I like Washington.
Yeah. Listen, I've made it clear I don't think Taylor Heineke's an NFL level starting quarterback, but he's certainly better than Glennon or from what we've seen.
And
I mean, what have the Giants shown anybody to make them think they can win a football game right now?
Yeah, I mean, and this Washington team, unfortunately, I mean, you could look in quite a few areas, whether it's been, Gibson at back. You're talking about guys like Montez Sweat, and obviously the underperforming, I'm trying to think of their other end, who's been out for quite a bit for the entire season pretty much. I don't know why his name's eluding me right now.
Why am I blanking on him too? He's like one of
Chase Young.
Chase Young. I was going to say he's like one of the best ones in the NFL.
Yeah, you got
embarrassing.
You got guys like them out. You got Logan Thomas, actually probably one of their best offensive weapons, honestly, on that team. He's been out for a good month or so. So you kind of see how this team is definitely a shell of what was. They lost a lot of key players. Obviously, this was a team that was thinking potentially Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to be the guy who was going to be taking snaps behind center.
They would have made the playoffs. I'll throw it out there. If they had Fitzpatrick at quarterback, this team would have made the playoffs.
And I would say some of those other pieces too. If you don't have a Chase Young,
well, of course, obviously missing Chase Young, Montez Sweat, guys like that. Antonio Gibson has missed large portions of the season. Yeah. That makes a big difference. But Ryan Fitzpatrick would have been able to win some games that they have lost otherwise. Right. And again, listen, Taylor Heineke is what he is. I think, in the vein of some of the other backups we've talked about, he wouldn't be an elite backup like we were talking about with Baker or with Gardner Minshew. But he is a perfectly capable NFL backup. This is a guy who shouldn't have trouble getting a job as a backup quarterback in the NFL. You'd be absolutely comfortable having to throw him into a game or two if he needed with injury.
Right.
But I think the Taylor Heineke as the Washington football team experiment is done.
Yeah, right? I think it's just it's kind of a shame that it was immediately put upon him again, because he had the surprise playoff performance, that sort of thing. That was like
playing the Bucs.
Yeah, almost stealing that game for them, completely changing, all the how all those playoffs shook out right there. Balled out during that, and then just kind of immediately thrust in there again in where he thought he was going to be a backup. Okay, now it's time to go again, and they hung in there for a bit, but it's a lot of things to make up for as far as injuries across the board for that team. I mean, saying that, you take a look at what this New York Giants team is right now, and it's almost an entirely different team out there on both sides of the ball for them. So it's not like they haven't been completely devastated on both on their offensive and defensive starters. But yeah, Washington, it's going to be obviously they're going to have the. I mean, fuck, they can't even like their stadium is falling apart left and right on them. It's bad right now. I mean, they're almost taking out the competition. Hey, they almost took out another NFC East quarterback right there. They could they could have set themselves up. If Hurts takes a shot right there at the end of that last game, they might be looking a little bit better in the NFC East picture. But yeah, that was wild. And obviously they have all the investigation shit under still happening with them. We'll see. It looks pretty ugly right now for Washington. We'll see how long their turnaround is, but it doesn't look like it's anytime soon.
Honestly, get rid of the Washington name too. Make yourself like the DC Armada. Just completely fresh start, new color scheme. Get rid of the Washington name. At this point, it's gonna hang over your head, and I think a complete rebrand might be the kind of thing they need. And that's not gonna help all of the issues. Obviously, it's not gonna fix FedEx Field, and it's not gonna stop the look into the emails and everything. But what it will do is it will give you some distance from it. Right? That was the Washington football team, Redskins emails, whatever you want to say we were. DC Armada, that's a new start. That's ground zero, right? It's not, but in the eyes of the fans, it can be. I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine there would be a strong contingent of fans from them that would not like that. It sounds like a soccer team, to be honest, dude.
Do you really?
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
Does it sound less like a soccer team than the Washington football team?
I mean, it says football team right there. You know exactly what you're getting.
If you name them the Washington Football Club, they can just be Washington FC.
The club, yeah. There you go. You throw club in there. That's a whole different ball game. An FC, yeah, that's beautiful. The DCFC. No, I was thinking what you do is you go the DCAC, and it's just a flip of ACDC. You get their buy-in too.
Yeah, that's fair.
See, there you go. Or they're like the air conditioners or some shit like that. The DCAC. Yeah, but yeah, that it's unfortunate. That's it's looking like it'll be a bit for that squad. And here's another one where another team, you gotta take a look at them and figure it's gonna be a bit for them to turn it around. The Jacksonville Jaguars going to be playing host to the Indianapolis Colts here. Indy -15 as the road opponent. This game has a lot on the line. I'm sure we're going to hear about it from Craig right here. What is the scenario at hand? What's the chaos to bring?
So, the chaos starts with this game.
Yes.
The true chaos of my pick in this game completes later on. We'll get to that. There's a plot twist to come. But the chaos starts in this game because the Jacksonville Jaguars. Remember, Indianapolis has not won in Jacksonville since 2016. Indianapolis coming off of a loss that would have clinched them a playoff spot. Now they're not so clinched. They think, we're fine. We're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars. Coach Bill O'Brien. Probably going to be in the stands. They are going to beat the Indianapolis Colts. Not only are they going to cover the 15 points, they will win the game. Because the chaos must happen. It is week 17 of the NFL. Stranger things have happened this week. Or I guess week 18 this year, but week 17 most years. Stranger things. Jacksonville will beat the Indianapolis Colts. The reasoning for this will be explained later.
I Yeah, I there is no reason to think that the Colts won't beat the Jacksonville Jaguars
I
unless you
100%
are
agree with
truly
that.
a summoner of chaos, which is
I
what we're,
100% agree with what you're saying there.
what we're attempting here. Interesting
I am
thing.
using black magic.
Two interesting things going into this game, though. Very worrisome, at least. I guess not necessarily for this game and the factor that they'll have in this game, but going forward for this Indianapolis Colts team. Xavier Rhodes going to be out this game with a hamstring injury. DeForest Buckner listed as questionable. DeForest Buckner's been, I know he's been dinged up a couple times before. I don't know if you necessarily need to see him in this game if you're the Colts, but a big piece, obviously, to how this defense is going to go. So a couple things got to worry about for the Colts. A giant spread, 15 points, is a huge spread. And actually, if this wasn't the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would actually probably I'd fade this spread. I would probably take not losing by as many points. But this Jacksonville Jaguars team they've been every bit as bad as their 2-14 would indicate. Obviously, they just came off that 50-10 snubbing by New England. The Colts, yeah, they did not look like the team that was ready to go into the playoffs last week. No doubt. After coming off of 3 nice wins there, again, and 2 against strong playoff opponents, you had to feel really good about the Colts, and then they lose that game against the Raiders to keep that door open for the Raiders, which you'll get to the chaos that could bring further down the line. And the Raiders looked every bit as more ready to be a playoff team than the Colts did. Very surprising to me. I was very high up on the Colts. I still think they are a playoff-worthy team, and because they are facing the Jags right here, I will take them to beat them by more than 15.
That is the smart money. They should theoretically absolutely murder the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are, to me, not even a question, the worst team in football. Because here's the thing, they have more talent than Detroit.
Right.
They should technically be better than Detroit, but they're so far away from being better than Detroit. And yes, a lot of that comes down to a cancerous tumor that was festering in this team that has since been removed. But they're looking to sign Bill O'Brien. They're not helping their cause.
Just don't let
him sign players.
Yeah, don't let him do anything
Okay.
in regards to personnel decisions whatsoever. He has no ability in any GM role at all. Keep him out of that, and you might get a good Bill O'Brien to put in there. That's the only thing I would say about that. But yeah, Bobby has not looked good. Oh man. Good God, he has the comical decisions with him at the helm have, that's why it's pretty funny to hear his name again. But there is a window in which I could see he'd be all right.
I mean, my question with Bill O'Brien has always been like, how much of those decent Houston Texans teams were Bill O'Brien, and how much of it was Bill O'Brien being carried by having Deshaun Watson?
Right. No, of course.
Right.
Yeah, much better situation personnel wise. Surprisingly, because it's not like those were incredibly. I mean, there's pieces actually when you think about those Texans teams that. They got a couple guys at some nice defensive line positions. They got some studs at wideout. Yeah, they got some pieces there, but yeah, you got, and then obviously, Watson as your quarterback. Probably a good amount. You don't have that kind of success without some good players in there, I think. Fair to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll be split on that one, taking the Jags to win outright. And this is something I discussed this on my stream last night, and I'll make it official here. I already actually owe Craig 6 subs from a bet that we had earlier, in which some alternate spread, and you got the win on that, and it was fucking out of nowhere. I can't. I mean, I'm trying to even think of what the alternate
It
spread
was
was.
the
In the
it was
Arizona
the
game,
Colts beating Arizona by more than
it's a great
6, I think
call.
it was.
Yeah. Um, so I'll get that there. I'm gonna make it if the Jags win this game. I'm making it an even 20. So we'll bump that up, and we'll just we'll make the bet for that. We'll still do the 6 regardless, but we'll bump it up to 20 if he actually lands this Jags pick here. This will be hilarious. Let's keep it moving though. Going through, we still got 2 more of the morning games here. We got the and 2 teams that are still in the hunt when it comes to the playoffs. Oddly enough, a lot of things to shake down for both these teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 8-7-1, going into Baltimore sitting at 8-8. Baltimore getting -3.5 at home. For these teams right now, both are still technically in the have the potential to make the playoffs here. The Ravens would need a win themselves, along with a loss by that Colts team we were just talking about, along with a loss by the Chargers and the Dolphins. The Steelers could do the same as far as getting a win, and the Colts getting a loss against that Jaguars team we were just talking about, and that the Chargers and Raiders don't end up in a tie. That is the scenario we are looking at for both these teams. So both still in the hunt. Got to get a win, obviously, here. What are you thinking for this game leading in?
I
Obviously,
think the Ravens will win it and miss the playoffs. Um, I've this Steelers team isn't good, right? The fact that they're still in the playoff hunt is an illusion, right? It's a false narrative of a season that has seen them get so lucky on so many occasions, right? You you get the Titans the week after Derrick Henry gets hurt, right? You get the Browns after all hope has been lost from that team. You get the Seahawks, as everybody on that team gets hurt. Like the Steelers are just not that good, right? I think even 8-8-1 is kind of a bit unfairly kind to how good of a team they are. Um, Ben Roethlisberger, let's just start there. He can't throw the ball anymore. Did you see the quarterback chart that was posted from him last game?
I didn't see the chart. I mean, I saw the stat line. It's
He had one completion that went further than 5 yards. And on passes that went more than 5 yards, he had as many completions to the other team as he did to his own. He threw, what was it, like 36 passes or something like that? Or was it more than that?
yeah.
Uh, all but 2 of them were behind the first down line. 46 passes. All but 2 of them were behind the first down line. The chart was ridiculous. This guy can't throw the ball anymore. He doesn't have an elbow anymore, right? And his arm is gone. His legs are gone. He's still got the mind of the quarterback that he was, and that's kind of what's helping the Steelers a little bit because he's able to see through the game the way an elite quarterback does, right? Like he still sees the game like he's an elite quarterback. He's just not an elite quarterback anymore. So he's been able to steal some wins where otherwise they weren't. But he's just Tyler Huntley's actually shown some impressive things this year for the Ravens, right? He hasn't been perfect. But he's actually shown that he can run this Ravens offense. And if that's the case, they should be able to pull this one out.
I mean, yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, this is a Ravens team that is losers of 5 straight. Beginning of this losing streak did begin with that loss to the Steelers team Granted, a 2019 loss. So, the kind of the MO of how this Ravens team has operated all season long. These incredibly close losses. Their last loss was, again, another 2019 loss, this time to the Rams. They had a 31-30 loss to Green Bay, lost to Cleveland 24-22. So obviously these margins are, they're putting themselves right there in it. I don't I don't think that it's necessarily a I don't think it's a stretch to think that Baltimore could actually come out and like just do a little bit more with what Hundley. It's like at the times I've seen him, he has played pretty good. It's been kind of just some of these minor mistakes, rolling out, just being kind of loose with the football. He's had like some fumbles and mistakes there. I wonder how much more they could really open up this offense for him. I feel like there's maybe a little bit they're holding back game plan wise. I feel like that's kind of how that's the MO of how this team's been operating, even when Lamar Jackson's back there, though. Like, same thing. Like, I feel like it's a little handcuffed. I've talked about this before, where it's like for this team to really be able to go, they got to allow Lamar to do a little bit more and not. There's just a weird. With a player that can be as unpredictable as him, there's a weird predictability about how they run that offense. There's just times where it feels like, oh, it's the run option, and he's going to do a little, potential handoff, and it goes up the middle, or he's going to slide out to the right. And it's just like that play over and over again as far as how a game goes. And I feel like they're doing that even a little bit more so with Hundley, obviously, because he's just not as experienced. But it would be kind of awesome in this last game if they just kind of let it rip. Like, let's see this offense like truly open up a little bit. I mean, they've had injuries all up and down the board, so you might not have the personnel as far as your weapons to be able to do so. But I don't know. I hope we see a little bit more offense out of this team. Obviously, yeah, as you alluded to with Pittsburgh, you're not going to see it out of Big Ben in this offense. Maybe Najee is going to be able to bust something as far as some good runs for him, but that's about it, right? So, yeah, I have Baltimore myself. I'm not super convinced of the pick, I guess, but yeah, at home, feel pretty good about them, and I don't feel like it would be a bummer if they went out and lost 6 in a row to end the season. That'd be a hell of a way to go out for this Baltimore team. So I'm kind of rooting against that, and hoping they pick up this one here. And that would leave them as a, at least above 500 on the year. Something to be said, I suppose, for that.
And it would give us an actual 500 team this season, which I don't think any of us thought would have been possible.
Yeah. Someone's going to do it. It's going to be Pittsburgh. Hey, and, that being said, Mike Tomlin still not had a losing season his entire tenure there. Quite amazing. Quite amazing, considering, how this season, I think, could have been for that team.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's keep it moving, I'd say, right along into the next matchup here. We got the potential number 1 seed in the AFC, and that's pretty much all that they're going to be playing for in this one. The Tennessee Titans going into Houston to face off against the Houston Texans. Houston getting plus 10.5 at home. Obviously, Tennessee, as we kind of alluded to earlier, off that very strong win against Miami, a pretty good win, an impressive second half win against the San Francisco that they had a week prior, and with a healthy Derrick Henry going to be coming back for the playoffs. They got to be looking for this number 1 seed and kind of chomping at the bit. So this might be a little bit more effort coming out from a team that's secured their spot like Tennessee than you might otherwise see. What are you thinking going into this one?
The thing, this game's a lot tougher than it should be because the Texans have actually been fighting in recent weeks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
obvious.
well they first half of that game against the Niners,
Yeah,
they looked better. They looked better than
yeah.
the
They
Niners did. It was a
beat the
weird,
Chargers the week
yeah,
before,
right.
right? Like,
Oh
if they
yeah,
win that game against the Niners, that's 3 on the bounce, right? Now, granted, one of those is the Jags, but that is still 3 on the bounce if they win that game.
that'd been
Now, in
nice.
the second half, they threw it away,
Of course.
but like they're a bad team, right? Like, what can you expect? It's at least nice to see them fighting, unlike what they were doing at the start of the year, which was rolling over and dying. Listen, they still have Davis Mills at quarterback. That's still and forever going to be an issue until you don't have Davis Mills at quarterback. That being said, 10.5 points is a lot.
Right.
For a team in Tennessee that without Derrick Henry has been inconsistent at best on offense. And let's not forget, for a team in Tennessee that just lost to this Houston Texans team a couple months ago. I think I'm going to fade Houston here. I don't think Houston's going to win this game. I think Tennessee's going to win this game and secure the number 1 spot. But I do think Houston keeps this relatively close. This isn't going to be a 3-point game or anything like that, but I think it stays within double digits.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can't really fault that. I think Tennessee absolutely wins this. They have something to still go for. I think they are hungry to get that number 1 seed. And you know what? I think this is, I don't want to say like a last hurrah or anything like that, but I think, for a guy like Deonta Foreman, if he goes out and he balls out another game in a row here, think about how much that stock, as far as like a valuable piece in an offense is considered. You're looking, and this might be maybe a little too. It's going to be a small sample size. Obviously, you're talking about maybe just a single game, but if you at least go back to back, like when you are given the chance to be the feature back in an offense that relies on the run, and for a running back, a position that isn't going to have the longevity that other positions are going to have in the NFL, you got to get your contracts as good as you can, and if you could show that you could be a really nice piece there, and you could do it a couple games in a row, you're talking about millions on the line for you. So I think someone like Foreman, with, I don't want to say his last hurrah, but this is his probably last opportunity for this team to really show some stuff. And I like a guy like McNichols as well as a nice little change of pace back. But I'm very interested to see how he's going to perform in this game. I think he's going to have some motivation there. I think this team in general obviously is going to have the motivation there. They're not going to be slipping or slacking off as much. You might not see so many starters playing all the reps. They'll probably have some rotation, but there's going to be a desire to win this game. So I like Tennessee, even with that pretty big spread. It is a very big spread, so I think it's pretty smart to take Houston, just because you could easily see Tennessee winning this game by, a 7-9 points, something like that. 2 possession, but not being too crazy or something like that.
22-13.
That'd be realistic.
A very realistic score. My question for you, because I'm not 100% sure on this, who can catch Tennessee?
It's only the Chiefs. The Chiefs,
okay,
with
yeah,
that
right.
win.
The Chiefs did win. Okay, never mind. Scratch that. Chiefs won.
So basically, yeah, the scenario worked out to where the Chiefs won earlier. They technically have one more win, but obviously Tennessee's still with the game to play. And Tennessee, having beaten the Chiefs earlier in the season, hold the tiebreaker over them. So secure that number 1. So yeah, still something for Tennessee to play for. If the Chiefs had lost tonight, I suppose I'd be thinking a little bit differently of this maybe. But I had a feeling that the Chiefs would would lock down pretty well tonight against Denver. Even though Denver played pretty impressively.
I was gonna say, in my head, because the Chiefs played so shit tonight, they didn't win, but they did.
Yeah.
So
They almost
yeah.
lost.
They look bad.
If not for that scoop and score, if not,
Yeah.
they got very fortunate with that because Denver was driving on them and they were looking to go up. But we'll keep it moving, and it looks like this end of the half here coming out pretty nicely. A nice little battle here between the
Been a fun
Cowboys and the
game.
Eagles. Yeah, definitely.
Been a fun game. I've been trying to keep an eye on it, but
Yeah, popping in and out. Oh, he's out. Nice. Okay. We'll keep going. Let's see. We got in our next matchup here, and I think this is the first game listed, anyways, for the afternoon games. This is a big one right here. There's a lot of playoffs implications here, and I know how I feel about it going in. We got the New Orleans Saints going into Atlanta to face the Falcons. Falcons getting plus 3.5 at home. And all I gotta say is I gotta need these Falcons to rise up. I'm gonna need them. We got Craig here. I got a couple other good buddies who are Falcons fans. I've never wanted a Falcons win more. I gotta say, just to take a little bit of the burden off the Niners, I suppose. A little selfish in that regard, but we'll. I'm expecting right now. You got a New Orleans Saints team that has, obviously they've had the mismatch that they've had at quarterback, pretty inconsistent play in regards to that. Their defense has shown out for them, and that is going to be the tough aspect here. And I think for the Falcons, you got to hate that Kyle Pitts is questionable coming into this game. That's kind of a shame. But I think this team has typically, you got to see it. There we go. Yes. This team's
my pick.
Teams run through Cordero Patterson. I'm hoping he has a fantastic game coming out, and I have Atlanta myself. So yes, ATL baby. Rise up.
The Saints don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. Like what? I'm supposed to be scared about Taysom Hill?
That's right. We ain't
Trevor
scared.
Siemian? I don't care who he.
I
Ian
mean,
Book.
Ian.
Am I supposed to be scared of Ian Book?
This is the Super Bowl right here for Atlanta, right? To take out the Saints to stop them from going to the playoffs.
Amen,
What better,
brother?
baby? What better?
Listen, out of every team, even in this division, the Saints would rather see not, or the Falcons would rather see not make the playoffs. The Saints are at the top of that list. I don't give a shit if the Bucks make the playoffs. I don't give a shit if the Panthers make the playoffs. The Saints ain't making the playoffs in Atlanta. That's not happening. Falcons coming out, rising up. Kyle Pitts is going off for 150. Falcons win.
Let's go. Let's go, baby. I want to. Yeah, I hope Kyle Pitts is the questionable. He's able to come out and still ball. I'm hoping some good things for Patterson. A strong game for Matty Ice, and probably for a team that hasn't been able to get too much, I think this season as far as turnovers are concerned. Take advantage of a guy like of Taysom Hill back there, and see if you get some. See if you get a couple picks. That's what we're hoping for. Let's keep it going. I mean, well, you know what? One thing I will say, and we kind of hit on this before. What do you think? And because we were talking about the backup quarterback situation, this team right now, fine with Jameis being that number one, right? And if you get a guy like a Baker or something like that as a number two, that'd be crazy. What do you still even play around with this shit with Taysom Hill as a quarterback after this season?
I don't think so. unless you're gonna use him as a gadget guy,
Yeah,
right? Unless you keep him on the roster to be like a gadget guy, he can come in and run some gadget plays, you know, run some wildcat where he comes out as like a tight end or something like that, and you can run some trick plays or you can throw him the ball a couple times. He's big, he's strong, he's got good hands. Um, no, he's not a quarterback,
no.
right? Uh, so yeah, I could see them keeping him around as a gadget guy, but that's it. I think you got to go out and find a true backup quarterback, somebody who you trust can step into the game and play quarterback, not running back, not tight end, not wide receiver, quarterback. It's not Taysom Hill.
Fair enough. Um, Another team that's, I guess they had their quarterback controversy earlier this year. It wasn't very long lived. We all felt the Mike White experiment, though. That was fun times. We got the New York Jets going into Buffalo to face the Bills. Biggest spread of the week, as we got the Bills getting minus 16.5 here at home against the
Spread it all.
Jets.
No, I don't get this spread. The Jets have played really well these last few weeks. Like, did we not watch that game against the Bucks? Yeah, horrible play calling by your boy Robert Saleh cost them that game.
Oof. Fourth and 2 QB sneaks are not
against Vita Vea.
Yeah.
What are you doing? They got Vita Vea. Go literally anywhere else.
Yeah.
The worst play call I have maybe ever seen. Like, there's so many factors that made that an awful play call. You're calling 4th and 2 quarterback sneak. Already a problem. Okay?
Right.
You're calling 4th and 2 quarterback sneak for your rookie quarterback that's already been injured to hell and back this year. Probably not smart. Calling 4th and 2 quarterback sneak for your injured to hell quarterback against Vita Vea. What are you doing? The worst play call I've ever seen. That being said, the Jets were very much in that game. The Jets very much were in that game. Last 3 weeks, the Jets have very much been in those games. They didn't get run away by the Dolphins.
Right.
Won the week before last. Didn't get run out of the building by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team that, much like the Houston Texans, are shockingly now deciding they're going to show some bite this year.
Yeah.
They waited to, like, we've mentioned it all year with the Detroit Lions. They fight hard. Hey, finally some of these other basement teams are starting to show a little bit of bite. I don't think the Bills are beating them by 16. I think they'll win. 16? Again, the way the Jets have been playing recently? No, I'll take the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Bills have come out. Their offense has had a little bit more life to them in their recent weeks. Been able to put up 30-ish points or more in their last 3 games. Even that their loss against Tampa Bay, still were able to put up 27. So a little bit of offensive light there, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, your point taken. For the Jets, playing competitive games against teams like, at the time, playoff contender Miami there, a Tampa Bay team that was on the ropes that, for it was pretty funny to, the whole scenario, and it's kind of the way that game worked out, and where I think I had it on the ticker, and I was looking around, and I was like, oh man, the Jets are looking to actually win this game. It's looking really realistic to that. And then you kind of take a look at the aftermath, and you read about all the AV stuff, and you almost it gets lost a little bit in how close that game was that the Jets were to win it. And yeah, through some bad play calling. I mean, shit, if the Jets just take the fucking field goal right there, it's an overtime scenario, right? Or potentially overtime scenario if Tom Brady's able to come back and get a touchdown for him. So it's just, it's some puzzling calling at the end. They almost got it done. They've been playing pretty well. and 16.5 is a hell of a lot of points. So I got to agree with you. Everything tells me to pick the Jets and losing by like 14 and not fucking 17 points. So that's my feeling about it. They might get blown out, but even if they get blown out, still by like a couple touchdowns, that's still within the spread. So I'll take the Jets as well.
As an aside, before we move on from this game, I think this is the best time to talk about it. Brian Knowles from Football Outsiders Almanac
Yeah.
uh, posted a tweet the other day. I don't know if you saw it or not. That had what the standings would look like if every one possession game went the opposite way. Did you see that?
I did not. This is interesting. Do you have a link you could send me? I'd
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah,
interested in
for
pulling
sure.
this up.
The most interesting thing on it for me is the Bills would be 15-1
Wow.
if every one possession game went the other way. There has been a lot with this Bills team, and we've talked about it. There's been issues and stuff like that. A lot of the problem with the Bills this year has been a little bit of ball luck,
Right.
right? When you're losing that many one-score games, ball luck plays a part, right? Those weird tip balls that end up
Yeah.
in somebody else's hands instead of your own, right? That field goal that just swerved a little bit to the left for you when it didn't swerve a little bit to the left for the other guy,
Right.
right? So to me, that's a crazy number. The other thing I want to talk about in this is there's 7 teams in the NFC that would be 9-7 going into the last week, and that would just be fascinating. But yeah, no, that was the thing that stood out to me in that,
Yeah.
and why I wanted to bring it up now is like we talk a lot about the Bills and how this is it's a little bit disappointing for the Bills to be where they're at, right? Where they're really having to scrap out for the division going into the last week of the season, but.
Right.
There is something to be said for they have not had a ton of ball luck this year, right? They're a couple bounces away from already having clinched and being able to rest everybody and maybe even having clinched the AFC, right?
Right.
Like you just get a couple of those bounces go your way and things change. So I it made me really think back to my thoughts on the Bills and think, maybe I've been a little bit too negative about the Bills. Right? Maybe there's like there's a combination of things that go into it, right? And they've lost that many one-score games, and it's like, God, you just think if one or two of those games go your way instead of the other, you're sitting golden, right? And a lot of the time, one or two of those games just comes down to we didn't have the lucky bounce. And there's so many tropes about luck. Oh, you make your own luck, and luck is for losers, and blah blah blah. But we all love sports, and we all need to accept that there is an element of luck to sports, right? We're talking about elite athletes versus elite athletes. Those 1 second plays where the ball tips up in the air and it lands to the right team instead of the wrong team, that is an element of luck that is completely out of your control. And those kind of things can decide those one-score games.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to note with the Bills this year that as much as they have maybe not lived up to expectations, let's not ignore the fact that they've had a little bit of ball luck go against them this year, and perhaps going into the playoffs, they get those bounces back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Disappointing when you take a loss against the Jags. That's that's just something to always you'll have to consider that through the entire season. And yeah, I think that game against the Pats, it just feels like you just kind of you just called that game all wrong, and so it's disappointing on that side. You just game you shouldn't really have felt like you really let slip away. You just kind of do, and in the end, it doesn't really matter. Oddly enough, I mean, all is said and done, and they win a game at home against the Jets, and they're your division winner over the Pats. Pats require winning their game and also having Buffalo lose right now, so they set themselves up pretty nicely. I don't see I wonder how much they will consider the like the way that they utilize Josh Allen right now, I think is uh, they're starting to run with him again, right? Like that's kind of the interesting aspect. And I was kind of clamoring for like why the hell are they not running Singletary and a couple of the other backs? They're just not even seeing touches right there. But yeah, this is how this team wants to operate. They want to actually get their quarterback running the outside, and it seems like this team has some pretty goddamn good success when they do that. So they might be getting more into that stride that we figured they'd be in through at the beginning of the season. They might be hitting their stride right at the right time. And yeah, I again, I don't think they'll completely blow the doors off the Jets here. I think we said Jets will keep this a little bit more reasonable than by losing by 17.
Yeah.
But yeah, Buffalo's obviously
They should win this.
yeah, they'll win it handily. But yeah, probably just not that major. My feeling, anyways. We'll keep it going, and this is the one. I mean, this is a huge game. Obviously, when you talk about the playoff implications, you're talking about certain seeding, and I'm I'm disappointed that we got to this point because as we brought up with the win or the loss against the Tennessee Titans, they've made this now a must win to really because you can't really I don't know that New Orleans team against Atlanta, who knows what's going to happen there, but you have the San Francisco 49ers going in to LA to face the Rams. Rams minus 3.5 getting that at home right now. Rams sitting at 12-4. This is a classic, though, as far as the matchup between Shanahan and McVay. Shanahan had McVay's number in this matchup as of late, and actually pretty much since McVay has been coaching the Rams. I'm not surprised by the spread, though. I mean, the Rams they are one of the damn good teams in the NFC. Obviously, there's a reason why they have 12 wins at this point. The question mark around Jimmy G, it looks like there is a good chance he will be the starter for this game for the Niners. Trey Lance, as we kind of saw in that last game, pretty shaky first half. Finally kind of got his feet under him in the second half there. What do you think of going into this game? Because we all know where I'm going.
Usually this would be the kind of game where I'd pick the 49ers. Right? Because the Rams already clinched playoff spot, right? I think they can be caught by the Cardinals.
Yes. Yeah, it's Cardinals.
Yeah. Cardinals can catch them, so maybe not so much. The Niners need this game, right?
Yeah.
You can't go into a game like this relying on other people to help you. You gotta when you got your fate in your own hands, you gotta take it. But the Rams are the better team here. I think even you, being a Niners fan, can look at the teams and go, the Rams are probably the better overall team in this matchup. The Niners have a system that works for them. It works really well, right? They run the ball a lot. They control the pace of the game. They run a lot of plays. They try to limit the number of plays the other team runs. That's their key to success. I don't know, with the way the Rams have been playing recently, if the Niners are going to be able to control this game the way they want. And I know that game last week against the Ravens, it was close, yada, yada, yada. They won it again. That's what they've been doing recently. They play teams, they win games.
Yeah.
And they played a lot of good teams recently and won games. I don't know if the Niners have what it takes to win this game. It's going to be very close, which is why I think I'm going to take the Niners against the spread. So what'd you say the spread was?
It's 3.5.
3.5. Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I think this game could come down to a field goal one way or the other. Right?
Right.
Um, this is easily, like, I could easily see this game being like 30-27, 27-24 kind of thing. But in games like that, the team with the higher power offense tends to find a way to win it. And say what you want, but there are very few quarterbacks who run the 2-minute drill as well as Matt Stafford. Close game like this could come down to a situation like that. I think the Rams probably can do a little bit more to edge out the Niners in this one. But it's going to be damn close. This is one of those games you hate betting on. Like, if you're looking to bet on a game, don't bet on this one. Just don't do it, because there's so many factors that come into it. I just see more paths to victory for the Rams than I do for the Niners.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a two-factor. There's two keys that I see, like matchups, just how it's played out wise, and one of those is Matt Stafford, and what kind of Matt Stafford does come out, because he's been throwing some picks lately and kind of keeping teams in games. Obviously, that pick six that the Ravens had was pretty beautifully played, like in just kind of really picking apart exactly where you wanted to go. Read them all the way. Corner jumps the route, easy tutty, and so if you get some play like that from the Niners, that obviously, and if Stafford does make those kind of decisions, that's going to be one thing. That defensive backfield for the Niners has been a question mark all year. Obviously, the defensive pass interference is the main thing you focus on. It's actually the fifth best defense against the pass in the league, but that doesn't include all of the defensive pass interference calls. So that makes it look a little bit better than it actually is. And you just had a bunch of those guys that got added to the COVID list. I think, I think some guys got tested or they had positive come up earlier in the week, so they could still test out of it by Sunday. I think one or two guys though, one of those being what's his name? Darby, who the young kid who has been kind of getting picked apart a little bit, to be honest, for the Niners as of late. I'm trying to think of can't think of his name right off the top of my head right now. But they're going to be looking at potentially even less people in their defensive backfield than they've had before. So that's going to be a key matchup right there. On the other side, though, I mean, you talk about a Niners team that if they
You're talking
could,
about the Niners cornerbacks?
yes, I don't know why I'm
Are you
thinking
talking about
Darby. I'm thinking
Dante Johnson?
no,
No.
not Deontay Johnson.
Ambry Thomas?
Yes, Ambry Thomas. There we go. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking D there.
I don't know if you've heard this or not. It just came about a few hours ago, but Ambry Thomas, Quan Williams, Dante Johnson, Jimmy Ward are all off the list. They'll be good to go for Sunday.
Okay, so that's great news because Williams being a part of that list as well. So yeah, those are some big names for them. But yeah, the other factor I'm thinking going into this one is this Niners offense has a great ability to move the ball, and whether obviously we've brought up guys like Debo, Elijah Mitchell is finally coming back healthy. We saw the hiccups that we have with Trey Lance, and now you have Jimmy G coming in, questionable off that thumb. It's going to be very interesting for how this offense moves. If they're able to kind of do what they can, move this ball down the field like they have shown the ability to do, I don't see any reason they couldn't, more or less wear this defense down that the Rams have. When you're talking about a Rams team that is going to have to consider how much do they want to play that game, I guess, against the Niners. The Niners have been able to take care of this Rams team as of recently. Um, it's actually, I believe, the only, if I'm taking a look, because the Niners have not done well against their division this year, but one of the only wins they have had against their division was this Rams team in beating them 31-10 earlier this season, at a time where the Rams were looking like, again, one of the best teams in the NFC. So there's a kind of kryptonite, like New Orleans to Tampa Bay. The Niners have been that to the Rams. So hoping that plays out and the Niners are able to get the win. But it is, I can see this being a close game. 3.5 points is a pretty accurate spread, I would say, for this game. So I think a good line by the book. Yeah, and pulling for a Niners win.
The good news for you is I don't think it's going to matter because we're going to beat the Saints. So.
There you go. Exactly. The thing is, both those games are played. They're going to be 1 in the afternoon, 3 or 4 Eastern games. Yeah. So neither team's really going to know what the situation is until pretty much the end. So we'll see. Should be some fireworks there. And yeah, that's going to be obviously one of the matchups of the weekend, of Sunday. Anyways, we're already at the weekend. Let's keep it moving, though, into the AFC East, in which we have the New England Patriots going into Miami to face the Dolphins. Pat sitting at 10-6 with a opportunity, with how the Bills play, to have a chance still to get the division. Miami just played themselves out of the playoffs right there with their latest loss, that very unfortunate beatdown they just took. Pats are getting -6 on the road here against the Dolphins. After that disappointment from last week, I've been really, really hopeful for the Dolphins here. After losing to a class team like the Titans, and this is another class of the AFC team in the Patriots, and the Patriots just coming off of an absolute drubbing of Jacksonville. I just, on gut feeling alone, I like the Pats.
Yeah, me too. I think this is going to be an ugly game. Usually in games like this, where you got two teams that probably don't have a ton to play for, and by this point, the Patriots, we assume the Patriots by this point are going to know they have nothing to play for, right?
Yeah.
Because we both assume that the Bills are going to beat the Jets. They'll know that by this point. Bills-Jets is a morning game. So they'll know by the time that they go out on the field whether or not they have a chance at the NFC East or at the AFC East, and they won't. So in games like this that are a nothing game, especially with the Patriots playing the Dolphins and all of the history that the Dolphins have of ruining the Patriots' seasons and just being general annoyances to them, you'd think the Dolphins are a pretty easy pick here. The problem is they just got a hard gut punch from the Titans, right?
Right.
Like that, there's no way that team's going to go into that game with a ton of energy. They just can't, right? It's just not possible. That balloon got completely deflated last week. And I have trouble believing that they can get the engine back up to 100 for a game against a Patriots team that there's enough young rookies on that team. There's enough young people on that team where even if they don't have anything to play for, they're still out there full of piss and vinegar, right? These are veterans who are like, okay, this is where we're going to finish. We're going into the playoffs. We can, play this game at 60 and get through it. And all those young kids on that New England team, they're going to be full of so much piss and vinegar. They're going to want to go in there and really make a statement, beat the piss out of the Dolphins. I think it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to feel like that the Pats won't at least have, they'll still be running their offense. I couldn't see them letting off the gas sort of thing. And yeah, Miami. There's a spoiler potential aspect, but just the lack of. I mean, they had to come out firing against the Titans there, and to come out as flat and as bad as they did, and yeah, it takes all the weight out of the sails. Like any momentum you had from that win streak, and that was a long win streak that all of a sudden puts you right in the conversation. Um, and just oddly enough, almost being because of who they're lined up against and with tiebreakers, that sort of thing. Teams that are technically lower than them on the playoff seeding or conference seeding actually still having a chance over them and just being just in the middle, just left at just kind of another 500 run here. Very, very deflating. So I like this Miami team as far as a lot of the pieces they have. I don't think you blow this team up by any means, but yeah, it's can't really put any confidence that they'll come out firing in this game. I have belief that New England will. So New England, even at 6 points, that spread's a little big for a team that isn't fighting for a playoff spot and just for some kind of positioning, only potentially. A little surprising, but yeah, give me the Pats on that one on the road. Going into another game that this isn't going to factor in. Actually, well, this could factor in for division title depending on what happens in the Niners-Rams game. Seattle goes into Arizona to face the Cardinals, and we have the Seattle obviously sitting at 6-10. They've been well out of it for a while, have not had a good season. Cardinals sitting at 11-5, were former division leaders, have kind of fallen off, but have secured the 5th spot at least in the conference and could get the division, I believe, with a win and the Rams losing to the Niners. So still have a chance at the NFC West title and that first round home game. So still something to play for the Cardinals here. Seattle has been bad. They're on the road. Minus 6.5 here. I still love the Cards in this game. I think they trounce the Seahawks here.
The Cards are in complete freefall mode right now, and I know they won last week against the Cowboys, but they nearly didn't. And
right,
boy, what a different conversation we'd be having if they didn't. This Cardinals team should be so much better than they've shown recently. They really should. There's way too much talent there. But we're starting to get to the point where we need to talk about, is this the MO of the Cardinals? Do they fall apart late in the year?
Right.
For them to change that narrative, it's got to start with this game. You cannot go into the playoffs losing 4 or 5. And
yeah.
And in particular, the one win in there, you nearly blew a 25-3 lead. Right? Like you can't have that happen. It's all of the bad mojo on you there. So, Cardinals have a lot more to play for than just the division here. Even if they can't win the division, even if the Rams win that game, the Cardinals need to prove something here. They need to go into the playoffs and be able to say, hey, this free fall mode that we've been in, this narrative that we have about us that we can't play games late in the year, that's not who we are. So I think the Cardinals are going to come out here very motivated. I think they're going to come out here and they are, as you said, going to trounce the Seattle Seahawks, who are bad. However, if they don't, there is a lot of question marks around this Arizona team going into the playoffs. And, man, It's a rough situation to be in if you don't beat the brakes off of this Seattle Seahawks team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all I don't. Besides them just kind of slipping, I mean, you take a look at those games Cardinals have lost, right? Or at least within those last four games that you were just bringing up. Go 1-3. Three of those teams are either playoff teams or on the cusp of being a playoff team right now.
One of
Right?
them you got absolutely trounced by the Detroit Lions.
Precisely, they did take the bad loss against Detroit. Um, that was, I think, it was kind of the perfect, everything was clicking for Detroit. They played well on both sides of the ball. They took advantage of, Murray just outright making some bad decisions and getting absolutely blown up for him. The DBs were hungry. They were seeing through what he was trying to do as far as where he was trying to go with the ball on passing routes. The Colts, I mean, we were feeling good about the Colts, so, and I know you were feeling really good about the Colts. So I don't even want to say that was necessarily that crazy of a win, but yeah, they have absolutely looked flat. They looked like they were reverting back to what they did last year. That win against Dallas, just getting it. Yeah, you don't want to backpedal here. If you're Arizona right now, I mean, you're still everything shaking out. It's still looking like it's going to be, you're going into Dallas next week, right? Or
Yeah.
for your wild card game, no matter what. And I mean, right now we're looking at this Dallas team. This game was, kind of back and forth, and they really pulled out at the end of the first half here. Out of those two teams, God, I mean, everything still tells me, especially with you know what some of the talent is there on the field, and you got a guy like Watt coming back for the Cardinals, right?
Well, yeah, I did forget to mention J.J. Watt. What an absolute beast of a man J.J. Watt is, eh? His season was done. We didn't
Yeah.
even consider him playing again this year. It was over.
Yeah.
No, he's back. He could play this week if we really wanted him to.
So yeah, I mean, like if things start clicking together and this Cardinals team comes back into form, I mean, it was you're talking about a couple months ago, Cardinals are that's the team in the NFC right there. They looked strong as all hell. So yeah, this could be the beginning of them getting back to that pace. They got the win, and they just got against this Dallas team. They might have to play them next week anyways. If they get it clicking here and they're looking really strong, I, as dangerous of a 5 seed as you're ever going to see, basically,
Oh, by
if
far.
they're getting it going. So, I do like them to really show out, and
I do agree, but it's with the asterisk of if they don't, we've got some real question marks around this team going into the playoffs.
yeah, yeah. And we'll see as far as what are they playing for. They're again, this is going to be a at the same time as the Niners and Rams games going on. So all these things, New Orleans, Atlanta, San Francisco, LA Rams, Seattle, Arizona, all these things are going down right there in that afternoon slot, and we won't know how it all shakes down until about 4:30 on Sunday. So, or 4:30 my time, 7:30 Eastern. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a hell of a slot of games right there, and to kind of finish out that slot of games, got a
Who wants to talk
team.
about Antonio Brown?
We got a team that has been in the forefront for all the wrong reasons, and it's not the Matt Rule Carolina Panthers. It
Oh my
is.
god, that's right. He's coming back next year.
Good God, we got that Carolina Panthers team just trying to get the hell out of the season as soon as they can, going into Tampa Bay to face the Bucks. Sans AB.
Where
How
do we start with this AB story? Do we start chronologically or do we start how we learned it? Because how much do you know about the AB story? Have you been keeping track of like all of the updates that have been coming out?
I heard about some of the stuff yesterday. The Instagram
Okay, so you did
model.
hear about the Instagram
So that
model.
was like some days before. So it
That was the
starts.
day before the game.
It
A
starts.
Saturday.
It starts to. Yeah, we got a little bit more of the foreground before we got the background. We kind of worked an opposite as far as painting is concerned,
Yeah,
but
it
we're
was.
getting there. We're getting there. We're getting the picture. We're starting to piece the puzzle together. Um, yeah, I don't know as far as so yeah that occurring the whole timeline between what Tampa Bay and their doctors and coaching staff knew as far as his injury, getting shots before the game, and just like all the stuff that goes along with that. That's going to be interesting, and I suppose we'll there's still the potential for some of that to be answered very clearly. I mean, when you talk about some of the stuff that was supposedly said on the sidelines and that sort of thing, I'm sure more of that stuff's going to come to light. Um, I don't know. Is there anything in particular with the AB story that kind of sticks out to you? Because there's a couple things to me that are, I don't know if they're necessarily alarming or shocking. Just like, oh yeah, this is caught up with them, and we'll see.
Well, as far as the injury statements and stuff like that, I want to start with that
Yeah,
because there are a couple of interesting things that have come out in recent days that see at first I was willing to give Antonio Brown the benefit of the doubt. I was willing to say hypothetically, let's say he's not lying. Let's say he is hurt and was asked to go in and play,
yeah,
right? Um wow. That's an unbelievably dick move by Bruce Arians if that's the case. Right? Like you just can't do that. You cannot in modern football do that. However, did you see the text messages? I need to put air quotes around that he
right.
got from Bruce Arians the day before the game. Because boy oh boy, those looked fishy as hell.
Yeah, I mean, and I suppose could have done a little bit more investigation to really taking a look what an authentic iPhone message looks like
So
in
that's
comparison.
not where it's fishy. The couple of things that a lot of people are pointing out are fishy about it are A, why would the coach start his text message by going, "Hey, it's your coach," right? Hey, it's BA,
Yeah,
right? A lot of people were immediately like, "When have you ever had to introduce yourself in a text chain in your life?" Right? Which is a fair point.
right.
This is an iPhone. It's a text chain. It's not individual messages, which means that there's a continuing message going on here.
Sure.
Assuming that this is not the first time these two have ever texted each other, which I can't imagine it is, there's no way he would have introduced himself. Right? So that was problem number one that a lot of people were bringing out that I do agree with. Um, the other thing they were bringing up was the way that it was worded, right? I've seen a lot of people who are who are what's the name of it? They're forensic pathologists, forensic pathologists who've been talking about it who have said this is not the way you would expect a 60-year-old white man to text. And that is a good point. However, I think in football culture there might be a little bit of a difference there, right? You might speak with a little bit more slang even though you're a 60-year-old white male because you are in the football culture.
Right.
That's the one where I go, a little bit more flimsy. I'd have to see previous Bruce Arians texts to really compare it, right? But the Bruce Arians introducing himself as Bruce Arians in that text thread immediately gave me suspicious hippo eyes.
Hmm.
Right? I listen, when I text people who I've known for a long time and I haven't texted in months, I don't introduce myself. I just say, "Hey, what's up?" Because it's it's 2022.
Right.
All your text messages save in a thread. They can see who it's from by looking at the past messages. Right? So him introducing himself in that was really weird. That was the first thing I went up. That was the first thing that raised my eye. The other thing that people were noting was that the name on the screen looked photoshopped.
Hmm.
Um, which is another one that I'm not 100% sure about, because why would you Photoshop it? You would just take a contact in your list and tell him, hey, text me this stuff, and then you would change his name in your contact list to say Coach Arians, right? And then when you open up that text thread, it says, this was Coach Arians sending it to me, which
Yeah.
he might have very well done, by the way. Um, the text message thing is really suspicious to me. For again, simply for the fact that Bruce Arians introduced himself in a text thread, which doesn't make any sense. Um, Beyond that, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Hypothetically, he does have this ankle injury. That is a problem. Because if he does have this ankle injury, and Bruce Arians essentially told him, you play or I fucking cut you, there's going to be a lot of legal ramifications to that. Now,
Yeah.
Antonio Brown has not earned the benefit of the doubt. We have no reason on God's green earth to take Antonio Brown's word over literally anyone else. This man has been a pathological liar. He's constantly done things that fly in the face of common logic. He has been in multiple situations that have caused him trouble with the law, not just speeding and DUIs, like not just the common shit. Like this is a guy who was throwing furniture out of a building and nearly hit a child with it. Like this is not a rational man. You can argue this might not even be a sane human being. So I think if this is going to turn into a he said she said, this is the Antonio Brown's not going to like the outcome of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. So this is the thing. It's like I'm I understand, and there might be um, there might have been a legal avenue that he could have taken at one point, potentially. For you could even go after like future wages, that sort of thing, if
Yeah.
the injury is to extend beyond your immediate playing for the team and participation and go in and affect the rest of your career. Uh, the amount of conduct that he's already done detrimental to the team is going to wipe a lot of that out.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like the thing is if the Bucks were found to have done this, and it's bad, there's not outrighting and saying that at all. But this is kind of one of those things to where it's like this wouldn't be the first team to fucking shoot up a fucking player with some goddamn, like, oh yeah, we need to kill the pain off there. We got some horse tranquilizers essentially. We're just gonna fucking hit you up with. You'll be able to run on that busted ass ankle. Then you won't practice, and we'll see what we can do about getting you out next week. Wouldn't be the first team to do it. Won't be the last team to do it. Just a team that's been more or less now called out for it. I would not be surprised if if medical reports come back and his ankle is all fucked up. That's the case. There's no doctor is gonna fucking submit that and risk their license or something like that
Yeah.
for
100%.
so that's going to be the case there. But and AB has also with you got to take some of that past into account, and the fact that he did all this shit detrimental to the team within this, this story that's coming out within the last few days. Um, it's quite a goddamn mess, and the it's kind of it's like you can't deny the dude's talent and that sort of thing, and that has gotten certain players passes in sports throughout history, and it will continue to do so. If you are talented enough, people will write off horrific shit that you did in your past. It just is the case. You got to imagine that's done for AB now, and you got to think.
Do you? I thought it was done for him when he got run out of Pittsburgh.
But the thing is, and all the crazy shit with the Pats and the Raiders, and you would think, but the Bucs still took a chance on with him, won a Super Bowl with the guy, moved forward with him for almost an entire another season. The Bucs made their bed with this situation. They brought a guy like that in. They brought a very questionable, I would say a fucking scumbag onto their team, knowing full well what this fucker was. You knew what this guy was. And, certain things, I think, there's levels to it. There's, athletes that are seen as not good guys because they, the bad shit, like, the DUIs, the abusers, that sort of shit. Absolutely. Those have been around the NFL for quite a bit. And, like, AB was just all these things stacked on it. Just like, how the hell do you put this guy on your team? I don't give a shit how talented he was. Like, it's just crazy. And
Somebody will.
And so you wonder, like, would who would it be? Would it be a Chiefs?
Bill O'Brien's hiring him tomorrow. Hiring him tomorrow. Don't even. The Jacksonville Jaguars, if they get Bill O'Brien, first thing Bill O'Brien's doing is saying, "Get me Antonio Brown."
You're putting fucking Antonio Brown in fucking Florida.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Like,
I mean,
honestly, you can name a handful of organizations that are dumb enough to actively go, listen, well, he's talented enough, let's just bring him in. We will be the team that, yeah, sure, Bill Belichick couldn't control him, but Bill O'Brien, that dude, he knows how to handle his talent.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy knows what to do with a problem guy on offense. Trust me, this is the guy we need.
Yeah. Yeah. We will see if it happens. It'll be pretty disappointing. And I guess all that being said, I got Tampa Bay in the game against the Panthers. You got the Panthers?
I got the Panthers.
I kind of like the pick, actually. I like the pick of Carolina. This is a 9-point spread too, not a small spread by any means.
I actually saw it at 8.5 and took the Panthers, but yeah. I'll take it at 9 too.
You'll take it at 9.
Both these teams are absolute shit shows right now. Obviously, Matt Rule's coming back next year. Don't ask me why. He just is. Sure. Like, I get the Panthers have to pay him a lot of money, but, like,
yeah.
Fuck, I'd rather pay him the money to not be my head coach than pay him the money to be my head coach. Like, you're going to pay him this money either way. Get him out. Right? Yeah. Like, what has he done right there? You can make a smaller list of things he's done right than the significant list of all of the things that Matt Rule has screwed up as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And he's going to be back next year to screw it up some more. I hope you enjoy 5-12 because you're going to do it next year. I think the Bucs will win this game, but I don't think they're going to win it by a ton. Both these teams are complete shit shows right now. The Bucs haven't even been playing well on the field with Antonio Brown, right? They had that 9-0 game a couple weeks ago. They were struggling to all hell to beat the Jets.
Yeah, I think
you combine on the field struggles with the off the field bullshit that's been happening around this team. I don't think they beat the Panthers by 9.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way they have played. It hasn't. You can't really put any true confidence like you would typically in this team to play well. I just think Carolina is such a shit show at this point that I can't see them playing well in any regard. So I therefore
Fair.
kind of take the Bucks by default. That was kind of my thinking, not even really thinking about the whole situation. And when I did take this was a couple days ago that I took the team. Kind of more things have revealed themselves a little bit more to see how bad of a situation this potentially is kind of growing, and how much like AB is throwing that. He's just throwing guys with the bus left and right.
The Tom Brady comments were
Like,
savage.
fucking shitting on Mike Evans and Gronk and all that shit. He just
So the Mike Evans one was very interesting.
burn
Mike
them
Evans
bridges.
seemed to be trying to play peacemaker
Yeah.
for the whole thing, right? Like it seemed like he was trying to be
yeah.
cool with them. Like, hey, listen, man, you got a point, but like, let's settle down. Let's try to talk this thing out. Try to keep this team together. And he just went straight after Mike Evans. Yo, fuck you, Mike Evans.
Yeah, pretty much,
Fuck, man.
pretty much. I mean, but that's an unhinged individual right there. That's a guy who's narcissistic or however you want to
He
put
doesn't
it.
give a shit about anybody who's not named Antonio Brown.
Pretty much.
Anybody. I wouldn't be shocked if that guy would sell his mom for $5. Like that guy doesn't give a shit about anyone unless their name is Antonio Brown.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so we're split there. But I actually I will stick with my Tampa Bay pick. I do actually like the Cards pick though, considering how the play has been lately. Even throwing out the AB stuff, it has been quite a shaky end of the season for a 12-4 team. Not looking so great as a 12-4 team. So I kind of like that pick. But we go in to the finale for the regular season, and what a way to end it. I don't think the NFL couldn't have scheduled this any better, really.
No.
I mean, what a dream fucking scenario, because you have the potential.
Do you think they potentially saw this coming? Do you think they potentially looked at the schedule and went, Raiders and Chargers at the end of the year could decide a playoff spot?
I would say they would have thought, okay, yeah, the Raiders might be going in for a playoff spot, and maybe the Chargers are figuring out their seeding position. So it could have still been important for both teams. I don't think they thought you can't predict a play-in game like this.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This is basically your first playoff game. This is your sub first round game. This is to get to the playoffs right here, depending on what the shakeout is in some of the earlier games. But all things on chalk considered, this is going to be for that last playoff spot here. We have the Los Angeles Chargers going into Vegas to face the Raiders. 9-7 teams, both of them. Chargers getting -3 here on the road. But this is winner goes in, loser stays out, most likely scenario.
But there is another scenario, Mr. Teptio.
There is
yet one other scenario. What if neither team wins, huh?
How does that happen?
What happens if the Jacksonville Jaguars do end up clawing a victory out of Indianapolis? What happens then is neither team needs to win this game. No. A tie is a great outcome for both of them because they would both make the playoffs in that scenario. I think if I caused the correct chaos and Jacksonville does beat Indianapolis, a tie here might actually be a very realistic scenario. I think it's the more realistic scenario than Jacksonville beating Indianapolis. Because here's the thing, they're going to know Jacksonville won that game. They're going to come into this game knowing the scenario. If this game is 17-17 in the fourth quarter, you think either team's taking a shot? Nah, they're running out the clock. This score's fine. They go into overtime. You think on 4th and 7 from their own side of the 45, they're going to go for that or they're going to punt that ball away? They're punting. And we're not giving them the chance to eliminate us. You can have the ball back. And the same scenario is going to go both ways. There's a real chance for a very passive end to this game if that scenario plays out. I'm not saying it's I'm not saying it's the most realistic scenario. Obviously, the most realistic scenario is one of these teams wins. Throw it out there, probably Vegas. They're my pick. Um, but uh, in that scenario, you get to late game. This game is tied. We could very realistically say a scenario where both teams kind of have that non-verbal agreement with each other of like, listen, we're not taking a shot if you don't.
Yeah, potential. I mean, I I have a hard time thinking that it's just as easy as like, oh, we're gonna agree to tie. I think it's
Not necessarily agree to tie. Like what I mean by that is like I don't think both teams are going to go like, okay, let's just shake hands and walk off the field and we'll all have a good time. I think when you get into that situation, right? Tie game, tie works for you, tie works for the other guys. There's a very realistic possibility where both teams are going to look at that and going, I'm not going to throw a pick here. It's 3rd and 7. I'm not going to throw a pick, right? Oh, we got a 52-yard field goal to win this game. I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going to punt it.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Or you see the opportunity. I mean, if things shake out and the chalk plays out, Indeed does win against Jacksonville, you got to go out and win this game.
Yeah.
And so everything's online there. So I don't see how that exactly plays out. I mean,
This is only in the scenario where Jacksonville has already won, which they will know,
yeah,
right?
and
And now you're tied late in the fourth quarter, right? You're in a close game late in the fourth quarter where the game's tied, which, by the way, that happens all the time. Tie games late in the fourth quarter between two evenly matched teams like these are. That's not a craziest scenario in the world. I think there's a real chance that both teams kind of start to play a little bit more passively,
um, I mean,
right? Because not losing is fine. You don't need to win at that point. You just need to not lose.
yeah, I mean, it's just basically like a lot of things got to shake out for it. I
I don't
think
think it's gonna happen. I'm trying to
yeah,
create the chaos. Remember, I'm not.
yeah,
I don't
but
think the actual chaos.
but we got to speak in realism as well. So this is the thing though, and you brought it up. We got Vegas winners of street 3 straight. We got Darren Waller coming back for this Raiders team. They
Yeah.
just look like, I mean, obviously they got that game against the Colts, which was necessary. That game against
Now,
Denver.
I will throw out with the Raiders. Will be without Nate Hobbs because of another DUI on this fucking team.
Yes. Yeah. They
God
first.
damn it!
Yeah.
Fuck. Can these players stop trying to fuck with this team, please?
Right. Yeah. They've been a mess in regards to that. They've actually been pretty hurt too on
Yeah.
the especially in their defensive backfield. You have now Trayvon Mullen and Casey Hayward. Well, Mullen out on the IR, has been for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Casey Hayward questionable with an ankle. I can see pretty limited reps, if many at all, for Hayward. But that's someone who they kind of need to be back there, because the potential for Herbert to get into a groove is real. This is a still a Chargers team that throughout the season is your sixth best scoring offense in the league. So something they cannot take lightly there. But yeah, Chargers, we brought up, hell, it's been very disappointing. They were able to get that win to keep them in the discussion here, to have right now what is the 7th spot. But yeah, it comes down to this game right here. I think, you talk about a Raiders team that now is playing their first full season at home. It's come down to this. Yeah, I like them at the +3 here. It might come down to a very close game. Might be that tie game we're talking about. Hell of a scenario. And what a way for the season to finish here. What a game. This should be a hell of a lot of fun to watch. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be watching this as intently probably as I watched the Niners game earlier that day.
Yeah, it's
So.
gonna be an interesting one, that's for sure.
Yeah. So we'll just go back through it here. We actually, yeah, we got split on, it looks like, for the games for the Sunday slate here. Green Bay going into Detroit. Detroit getting the +3 at home. I have Green Bay. Craig has Detroit. Chicago going into Minnesota. Minnesota getting -4 at home. I have Minnesota. Craig has Chicago.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise. All that shit talk about Nagy. So Tampa,
I'm just
Chicago.
creating the chaos.
Indy going into Jacksonville. Jacksonville getting the +15 at home. Actually, pretty smart with the points there, but the outright pick as well for the Jags for Craig. I am taking Indy to secure their spot. And Carolina going into Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay getting the -9 at home. I think Bucks will return a little bit to a better form, what their record shows. Craig has Carolina being able to take advantage a little bit of the chaos.
I don't even love that pick, to be honest with you. But that game is.
Yeah.
What do you do? Both teams are just shit shows right now.
It's yeah.
Take a closer game than a big blowout one way or the other.
What a mess! Right at the end of the season too. What a mess that they have to
Like,
deal with.
Tampa Bay's getting eliminated in the first round, right? It doesn't matter who they play; they're out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no way that team can do anything in the playoffs.
I mean,
I know betting against Tom Brady in the playoffs, it's a fool's errand, but like, wow, what a shit show that is right now.
I mean, yeah. Right now, as it shakes out, if the seeding was to stay exactly the same, Tampa Bay would be facing San Francisco 49ers first round.
Oh, you're probably loving that.
There's something spicy about that game. Tom Brady going against his old childhood favorite team. Niners coming in on the road. Strong running game. We'll see. We'll see. That'd be a spicy first round, that's for sure. But that remains to be seen. We got the whole slate to go tomorrow and see what happens there. Nice picks. I think some interesting ones. I honestly, I like a couple of your picks. I actually really, again, I'll say, I really like that Carolina pick. I actually think Jacksonville's a pretty smart pick there. And, yeah, why the fuck not the Detroit Lions against the Jordan Love-led Green Bay Packers? So I gotta say, not bad on the split. You might have me this week. I've been able to get the split most of the weeks between us, but maybe not this one. One thing. I guess I got a couple other topics to hit on. Not much though, as far as other topics. Saw a little graphic, and I don't know. A couple guys popped into my mind immediately. Wonder if you had any thoughts on it. I saw a graphic for Coach of the Year for the NFL. Some interesting thoughts there. As far as I think the one that immediately popped out to a lot of people, and I think would be the favorite, is probably going to be Mike Vrabel. For the Tennessee Titans.
Really? That's not who I thought
of. Other guys you could potentially even throw in there. I mean, I even like a guy like Sirianni. And I'm trying to think, and I feel bad because you're talking about Coach of the Year, but I can't think of the goddamn guy's name. Head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, because you got to give that all the fucking credit.
Zach Thomas? The Zach Attack. I just remember that from the
Zach Taylor.
There
we go.
Also would be high up on my list. Would not be who I picked. There is a team this year that I think might have defied my expectations more than the Bengals. Because I thought the Bengals were going to be better this year. I didn't think they were going to win the AFC North or even be a playoff team, really. But I thought they'd be around 500. I thought they'd be pretty good. Why not Bill Belichick? Why not the New England Patriots, given everything that they've done this year, given where everybody thought they finished, given where I thought they finish? No. Especially if the Bills falter and they win that AFC East, why not Bill Belichick? Like, I know, I get it. Cliche, why are we gotta give the Coach of the Year award to Bill Belichick again? This year, maybe more so than any other year, he deserves it. He don't have Tom Brady, right? He's built this team out of copper wire and string and all the other things he could find in his pocket. He's got an undrafted free agent who's one of the best defensive backs in the NFL right now, right? His first round quarterback, who everybody thought needed to sit on the bench for the first year of his career, is turning out to maybe win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's done incredible things with a team that I don't think people thought would do incredible things this year. That was the first one in my head. Zach Taylor does deserve a lot of credit. Vrabel does deserve some credit too, but I think the Titans are about where I thought the Titans would be. Now, if you told me Derrick Henry got hurt, I wouldn't think they'd be there.
Yeah.
So that's probably where that comes from. So I think Vrabel deserves talk. I think Zach Taylor deserves talk. But to me, I think Bill Belichick is the name that stands out to me as one that's like, what this Patriots team has done with the players they have, Bill Belichick deserves some credit for that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I hadn't thought of Belichick. I mean, yeah, granted, exactly where we kind of had them projected. I would say it was pretty surprising. But yeah, those guys that I brought up, those are kind of the three that really stick out to me. I think Vrabel.
I think Zach Taylor will win it. By the way, I'll just throw that out there. I think Zach Taylor will win it.
Yeah,
but I do think Bill Belichick deserves a little bit of love for it.
Yeah, I mean that Cincinnati was not looking like anybody's pick for that division, and to come out and win it is pretty astounding. I would say the for Vrabel, for me, it's that Titans team. Henry obviously is the one you could bring up initially, but they have been banged up all over the place. Like they've taken injuries up and down both sides of the ball. So to be still where they're at right now with the record that they have, as beat up as they have been throughout the season, is kind of one of those things that I'll give them a little bit more credit for. And although, it looks like they're taking quite the trouncing here in a game that didn't really matter. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles playing a lot better than I ever would expected. And he won't win Coach of the Year by any means, but Nick Sirianni.
Sirianni deserves some love for it. I think Sean McVay is another one who probably won't win it, but probably deserves a little bit of love for it, given what he's done in LA. Right now, I know they have a good team, mind you, but that division has been a murderer's row all year, and if they do come out of it on top, I think he absolutely deserves some credit for that. Losing a guy as important as Robert Woods and being able to recover with the team, being able to fold in Odell Beckham as well as he has, there's some credit there that needs to be passed out.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I want to hit on is something that I just found out earlier today. This is more of, because it's kind of a Homer team aspect and something that's kind of been in question, wondering what they were going to do with this guy for a while. Evander Kane has finally been removed and put on unconditional waivers in an effort to terminate his contract for the Sharks. He apparently, while he's been on the Barracuda, the AHL affiliate for the Sharks, he also voided or went against the COVID-19 protocols while on the team. So he just truly fucked himself while being on the AHL team, and Sharks want to wash their hands of it, have finally released the guy halfway, basically through a 7-year contract.
It'll be great for the Canadian national team at the Olympics, because boy, oh boy, I am not happy with some of the names I have read on the Canadian selection committee. But we won't go into it until they're actually picked. I don't know if they will, but guys like Brendan Leipzig, guys like that who aren't in the NHL because they're general pieces of shit, I don't think should get onto your Olympic team.
Right.
Yeah, part of me feels for Evander Kane, right? He's got a problem. He has a problem.
Yeah,
and it always sucks to see somebody who's so talented be that self-destructive. Right. And you certainly wish that there's somebody there who could just pull him out of it and help him, but it's not always that easy. Right? And I do feel for the guy in that sense. This isn't a situation like said Brandon Leipzig situation or Jake Virtanen situation where they're just, it's not like he's actively gone out of his way to hurt people, right? He has an addiction. He has a problem that he cannot control, right? He's not getting arrested for DUIs. He's not getting arrested for assault. He's not going on the internet and saying horrible things to people. He's got a gambling problem, and he doesn't have the right people in his ear helping him make smart decisions. Right? That's abundantly clear. This is a guy who, if you get the right people around him, get the right people talking to him, get him away from whatever is in his ear right now, get him to some people who will get in his ear and say, no, do not go out to the club at 2 in the morning during COVID. That is a mistake. Or, no, Evander, do not build up $500,000 of gambling debt. Don't do that. Leave now. Get those people in his ear. This is a guy who is supremely talented.
Right.
And will have a chance to find himself on another team. Because much like Antonio Brown, talent gets you chances. Doesn't matter if you deserve them or not. So I think if he can get the right people in his ear... Listen, the Oilers right now have Zach Kassian on their team. And for those of you who don't know the Zach Kassian story, throw it out there real quick. The guy had a severe cocaine addiction. Was like the 7th or 8th overall draft pick, was phenomenally talented, and constantly was getting arrested for drug possession, wrecked a car, was just in an awful situation, checked himself into rehab, found a now wife, I believe, who was able to get him in the right state of mind. He got another chance to be on an NHL team because, again, talent will get you chances. And he has become kind of a leader for the Oilers, right? Guys can fix themselves when they are broken, but you can only get so many chances to do it, right? And Evander Kane's rope is running really, really short. I hope he gets help. Not for his NHL career. Listen, whether he gets another NHL chance or not, I hope he gets help for himself. More than anything else.
Yeah, I mean it's a it's interesting in the fact that it was this process was drawn out. I feel like he was given multiple chances with the Sharks organizations.
So many.
Shark organization to make it happen. And yeah, it just might be one of those things. I think I don't know what kind of support system he was getting with the Sharks, what kind of help. I know it started to become a little disassociated toward the end there, to where they didn't know where Evander Kane was. Yeah. So I hope that wasn't exactly the case through the entire process, and they were trying to work with him as much as possible. But it might literally be the thing where you need to just be physically removed from a situation, whether it was someone trying to help you out or not. And, reality check, time, and yeah, maybe you get someone different, right person, right time in your ear, to start to not make the foolish decisions that had put you in the situation you are in now, which is, terminated from an AHL team, and we will we will see. I mean, yeah, I probably will get a chance, right?
Yeah. So. And make no mistake, the Zach Kassian situation I brought up, the reason I brought it up is because he was in a very similar last chance saloon situation. He was cut from the Canadiens, right? And he wasn't on an NHL team. He ended up going to rehab, and then did a tryout with the Canadiens minor league team, and eventually got a minor league contract with the Canadiens after rehab. And the Canadiens refused to buy that contract, even though he was lighting up the AHL. They wouldn't. They were like, we gave him enough chances. Like, we can't risk that again. They eventually had to get a trade from the Oilers, where the Oilers were like, okay, you get one more. Like, this is it. You screw this one up, nobody's gonna take another shot at you, right? I think Evander Kane's in that situation right now. He's got to first fix himself, right? That's step one. Get the right people around you, get in the right situation. Gamblers Anonymous, right? Things like that. Get your help with that. Whatever other issues. I haven't heard anything about him being arrested for DUIs and stuff like that, and drug possession charges. I don't think he's had that problem yet. So, let's get everything under control, then focus on hockey. Because I think that's what he's got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see where it ends up. I don't think anything's gonna crazy shift anytime soon as far as playing, but yeah, we'll see as far as Canadian national team and all that stuff is concerned. Just something that popped up right before we started.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Anything you want to hit on before we wrap it up for this week?
There is one. We are approaching the anniversary of this. We are trying to create chaos today. That has been my goal, is to create chaos. And I felt, because the anniversary of this game is a couple of weeks from now, and I'll never remember to bring it up then, so I'll bring it up now. I am going to bring up the anniversary of the most chaotic game of sports of all time. Not even a question. When I tell you the story, if you don't know it, you will not be able to argue this. But Tat, have you heard the story of the game between Barbados and Grenada at the 1994 Caribbean Cup?
This actually sounds kind of familiar. I might have heard about this. I'm not.
So, Grenada goes into this match with a +2 goal differential on 3 points. Barbados goes into this match with a -1 goal differential on 0 points. So, for Barbados to advance out of the group, they need to win this match by 2 goals. That'll give them +2 to their goal differential, -2 off of Grenada's. That'll be enough to get them through.
Right.
83rd minute of this game, Barbados is up 2-1. Now they're looking at the situation going, there's 7 minutes left. It's not very likely that we are going to score another goal, because they're just going to shell up and 11 guys behind the ball, defend for their lives, get out of here with a 2-1 loss and advance. However, FIFA had introduced a rule for the Caribbean Cup that if you scored a golden goal, which is essentially soccer's rule of sudden death overtime, right? Soccer used to have sudden death overtime. They don't have it anymore. They called it golden goal.
Right.
If you score a golden goal in this tournament, it is worth 2 goals. Not 1, but 2. So Barbados' manager, he's a sneaky man. He's smart. He goes, I might not be able to score on them, but I can definitely score on myself. Takes the ball, brings it back to the goalkeeper. There's video of this out there, by the way, if you want to look it up. Barbados and Grenada, 1994 Caribbean Cup. They pass the ball back and forth for about 3 minutes, and then the defender just takes the ball, touches it around the goalkeeper, pops it into his own net. It's 2-2. So now Grenada, they see this and they go, oh shit, I get what they're doing here.
Yeah.
So Grenada takes kickoff, and the Barbados team splits in half. One team goes to defend Grenada's goal, the other team goes to defend their own goal. And Grenada's got 11 guys in the middle running back and forth across the field trying to figure out which goal they can score on, because it doesn't matter which one, right? If they score on Barbados' goal, they win 3-2. If they score on their own goal, they lose 3-2, but that's good enough. They could not do this. It goes into extra time, and guess who scores the golden goal? Barbados scores. They win 4-2. Go through with their goal differential. They do not end up winning the Caribbean Cup, which is a shame, because with that level of genius, you should.
Yeah.
I figured we are out here trying to create chaos in the world. The anniversary, it was January 23rd, 1994. So we're really close, right? We're a couple weeks away from it. But what better way to create chaos than to spread the great word of the Barbados-Grenada game of 1994? If you have not seen this, take 5 minutes of your time and look it up.
Yeah.
Watching it is hilarious.
That's pretty hilarious.
One team defends both goals, and the other team has to try to figure out which one to score on. Now, I will say, shame on Grenada. Hypothetically, Barbados is trying to defend both goals, which means you should just be able to pick one goal
and
attack 11 on 5, because you bring your own goalkeeper up for that too. Because if if they bring everybody back, sweet. You just go score on your own empty net now. All you had to do was score 11 on 5 on one team, and you couldn't do it. You deserve
Yeah.
to lose that.
Yeah, I think, when I think it's one of those things when you start getting put into just you couldn't even think of that situation happening unless you had that wacky little 2-goal rule, which I'm sure had not. I mean, I don't know how long it had been implemented for, and
Literally for that tournament, it was never
yeah.
used again.
So completely new rule, and just the you don't necessarily just go through the motions as a player, but you're just kind of naturally taught. All right, half and half. You tack that side, they tack that side. You just do that.
Yeah.
Throw a wrench in that, and you just completely forget where the hell what you need to do. It just an absolute brain fart moment. That is hilarious. That is quite a scenario.
Honestly,
yeah.
the craziest thing to watch.
Yeah.
The highlights are on YouTube. Honest to God, I cannot recommend enough taking 5 minutes of your day to watch this shit unfold. Because you can see the moment in the coach's head where he's like, no, wait, go score on us.
Yeah.
And then this whole thing breaks down. And honestly, if you've ever seen U6 soccer where everybody's just chasing the ball and nobody's really going anywhere, that's what this game ends up looking like before the extra time starts.
All right. Oh, man. Well, there you go. Hey, so after you finish with this video right there, look it up. Grenada versus Barbados Caribbean Cup.
Yes, Caribbean Cup 1994. But if you look up
Take a look
Barbados
at
Grenada 1994,
Barbados.
even if you look up Barbados versus Grenada, I guarantee you it'll be the first thing you see.
Right. Go check that out after you check out this. And yeah, I think that will wrap us up for this week. It looks like the Dallas Cowboys are absolutely stomping the Eagles now.
51-20 last time I saw.
Yeesh. And there we go. But yeah, and now as that game is looking to be pretty much finished, we'll finish up here. Episode 11 of Sports Clichés. I'm Jay. That's Craig. Thanks for joining us, y'all. Have a great Sunday. Looking forward to a great slate of games. And we'll see what we react to as we go into the playoffs next week. Looking forward to that. Catch you all later.